Chapter 656, Xiao Li's Dragon Pearl. Jianghu was surprised. The Archean Abyss Dragon Pearl turned out to be Xiao Li's pearl. Can a young dragon have such power? Jianghu sat on a tree. He knew Xiao Li was extraordinary but not to this extent. He shook his head and didn't dwell on it too much. He was curious about the heavenly thunder. When he appraised Xiao Li before, he was told she was severely wounded by the heavenly thunder. He had just dismissed it. It seemed that the heavenly thunder was no ordinary thunder. It was clear that it had dislodged the pearl from her. Jianghu climbed down from the tree and decided to explore the nearby area. Yesterday he had disappeared into the abyssal sea with Hong Yuye, only to arrive at Chaos Stone Island. The objectives of this trip had already been fulfilled, so why stay here any longer? Waiting any longer would prove detrimental. The heavenly kings were no pushovers. He realized that the abyssal sea was not as easy to escape as he had thought. The Archean Abyss Dragon Pearl couldn't come out because it couldn't activate its accumulated power by itself. It was only after he touched it that the power was activated and allowed it to break free from the abyssal sea. In the meantime, on Chaos Stone Island, Jianghu handed the Archean Abyss Dragon Pearl to Hong Yuye. However, the pearl didn't stay quiet in her hands and ultimately returned to him. Only then could he attempt to appraise it. During this time he also bought September Spring. He brewed it and drank it. The last time he had used its power for painting. Now it improved his Mountain Sea Seal. I wonder who obtained the ancestral dragon's heart. Jianghu was curious. He would have to wait for the gathering to find out, but the gathering would also bring him trouble. Lu must have guessed it already. I need to come up with an excuse that won't affect the impression I left behind. Jianghu left the matters aside and decided to take care of the final task for now. On Chaos Stone Island, Ran Hui hid behind a broken wall. They had settled down on the island and no one recognized them or disturbed them. For them this place was like paradise. However, the good times didn't last. They had barely settled down when someone came looking for them. They told them that they had to pay spirit stones. Later they learned that working in the city earned you spirit stones. They hoped the person would give them more time. They agreed, but when Ran Hui came out to this place he heard people talking about them. Look at him. He's got no skills. Does he really have any spirit stones? Definitely not. The middle-aged man shook his head at the young man. Then why did you set a time limit for them, senior? The young man was puzzled. I heard they have someone backing them, so I wanted to check. There's no background, so we can do whatever we want. That girl with her face covered must be extraordinary. If we take her and sell her, we can get quite a few spirit stones. What about the guy? No need to worry about him. The two of them exchanged a smile. He is just an ordinary person, nothing more. You can handle it, so I won't dirty my hands. Only dead people don't cause trouble. Ran Hui's face turned pale. Since they were going to die anyway, they might as well fight these people. With that thought in mind, he picked up a stone from the ground and walked out. But as soon as he stepped out, he noticed the two men were staring in his direction. They smiled mockingly at him. Look, he's actually here. I thought he'd get scared and run away, the middle-aged man said. You didn't think you could hide and we wouldn't know, did you? Said the young man and laughed. Since there's nothing more to play with, let's just kill him, said the middle-aged man. The young man gathered lightning in his hand. Ran Hui, in despair, finally erupted with anger and threw the stone in his hand. The two men laughed. However, the moment the stone approached, it was as if a blade swept through everything. The two figures were dead. They didn't even have time to react. Ran Hui was left standing there. He was bewildered. Friend, we meet again. He heard a chuckle. When he turned to look, he found that it was the scholarly-looking man from the ship. He was fanning himself as he leaned against the wall. The words, unrivaled in the world, flashed on the fan. Immortal Elder. Ran Hui knelt on the ground. It seems that this place is not suitable for you, Jianghu said with a smile. There were many cultivators, and it was extremely dangerous for ordinary people unless they lived in the city. Ran Hui lowered his head in sorrow. We have been through so much, but nothing ever changes. We've tried our best and tried to move on. We only hope for a peaceful life, but it seems that is too much to ask for. Jianghu listened attentively. Ran Hui composed himself. I'm going to leave soon. Have you thought about what I said? Ran Hui lowered his head. He then got up and invited Jiang to his house. It was a newly constructed thatched house. We built it together and hope to spend the rest of our lives here. We treat this place as our own home, Ran Hui said. It's quite nice. Jianghu nodded. Yes, we think so too, Ran Hui said with a smile. His smile looked desolate. At that moment, Jianghu saw a woman pacing restlessly in front of the thatched house. I'm back, said Ran Hui to her. Jianghu followed him inside. The woman was very happy to see Ran Hui, but when she saw Jianghu, she was puzzled. Do you remember what I said to you before? I told you that I would find you again before leaving. If you're willing, I will help you. If not, I won't bother you. You should think it over. Once I leave, you will never see me again, Jianghu said kindly. This was Chaos Stone Island, and he wasn't going to come here anytime soon. These two people couldn't come to the Heavenly Note sect either. This was a farewell. The two looked at each other. Finally, they held each other's hand. They knew that if this failed, they would die. The two went inside the house to discuss. Jianghu didn't know what they talked about, but when Ran Hui came out, he was ready. If we fail, I hope, Elder, that you can send me on my way too. Jianghu lowered his head and nodded. At noon, they stood in an open area with Jianghu in front of them. I'm going to start now. The woman nodded. Jianghu activated the Heavenly Cauldron ability. In an instant, the surrounding was enveloped in darkness. Jianghu used the universe in a palm technique, and purple energy spread out everywhere. The mountain sea seal revolved in the sky. After doing that, Jianghu walked slowly to the woman and extended his hand. Heaven Lock. Chapter 657, Shaoli, Senior Brother, this pearl is too hard to bite. The Heaven Lock came into effect. It was an incomprehensible technique. Jianghu could feel that the woman in front of him was bound by chains, but it wasn't her body or her spirit that was locked. It was something else. Something that couldn't be easily described. Jianghu could understand some of it but couldn't put it into words. The Heaven Lock could seal one's talent and also their physical ability. This was the first time Jianghu had used it, and he wasn't sure what would happen. Boom. While activating the Heaven Lock, he felt an unimaginable pressure on his body. It was much more difficult than he had expected. The Hongming Heart Sutra frantically circulated and tried to resist the force. But the force pressed down on him. It almost broke the Heaven Lock technique. At that moment, Jianghu knew that if he stopped the Heaven Lock technique before it took full effect, the woman in front of him would die. He felt the agony and his palm began to bleed. Ran Hui saw this but didn't dare to utter a word. The pain lasted for a long time and cracks began to appear on the Hongmeng Heart Sutra. However, it still held on. At night, when Jianghu felt that he had successfully sealed the woman's talents, a sense of relief washed over him. The immense pressure disappeared, but he didn't stop at that. Sealing a talent was risky because there was always a chance of it leaking out. He was trying to take the talent for himself. Purple energy surged, and the universe in a palm began to contract. The Heavenly Cauldron sealed everything in the vicinity. Soon, the purple energy enveloped the area and turned into a purple bead in Jianghu's hand. The woman had fallen into a deep sleep. Ran Hui immediately rushed to her side. It's okay, said Jianghu weakly. She's okay. She just fainted. Her ailment should be gone now. Ran Hui knelt in front of Jianghu and bowed in gratitude. Jianghu nodded. He deactivated the Heavenly Cauldron and disappeared. When Ran Hui looked up, Jianghu had vanished. After carrying his wife back to her room, he took off her veil. She was still like how she had been before, but something had changed. It was as if her illness had truly disappeared. Ran Hui was relieved. He touched her cheek. Have the scars faded? Jianghu had taken care of them, so they were no longer as noticeable. After resting, Jianghu visited the island master's mansion. He spent some time there before leaving. Then he returned to Madame Gong's mansion the next day. With Hong Yuye, he disappeared from Chaos Stone Island. This departure meant he wouldn't ever return. He didn't even leave behind a trace. At the same time, Ran Hui saw his wife waking up at their house. She appeared different from before. Her scars were very faint and not as noticeable as before. Their life was beginning to improve. The two of them had originally planned to work on the farmland and live as best as they could. But, as they were about to leave their home, a group of people arrived at their doorstep. They were from the city, and it seemed they weren't there to cause trouble for Ran Hui and his wife. Instead, they said that the island needed a scholar, and Ran Hui had been recommended for the position. They had already arranged everything. They just needed his consent. Even if he refused, they were still considered residents of the city, and no one would bother them. Jianghu breathed a sigh of relief. Finally he was back. The courtyard was the same as before. Nothing had changed. As for the general situation in the sect, he would need to ask Ching Cho about it. He also had to check the situation in the spirit herb garden as soon as possible. It hadn't been properly managed in the past few months, and he was worried that his master wouldn't allow him to stay in the garden. This would affect him greatly. He let go of Hong Yuye's hand and decided to check on the spirit herbs in the courtyard. However, Hong Yuye kept staring at him. It made him feel uneasy. "Senior?" Hong Yuye frowned. She seemed to be thinking about something. Jianghu sighed inwardly. He wasn't sure what Hong Yuye was thinking. She had been staring at him for the past few days. It made him feel uneasy. "It's been several months, but it seems my flower hasn't changed at all," Hong Yuye suddenly said. Jianghu felt helpless. The flower wasn't growing at all. "Well, think about what to do," Hong Yuye said coldly before fading away. Jianghu breathed a sigh of relief. It was almost mid-November. He had left the sect in mid-August, and the 3-month deadline was fast approaching. He needed to go to the task hall and submit 2,000 spirit stones. With these thoughts in mind, he took out the purple sphere. It appeared empty. The sealing had taken place after Heaven Lock, so he wasn't sure if it had sealed away her talents or not. Hong Yuye had looked at it before, but it seemed like she couldn't see anything in there as well. Unless one knew the Heaven Lock technique, it was hard to determine what was inside. It was also quite a profound art to master, and Jianghu was far from being an expert in this field. Currently, there was likely only one person in the world who could give him a definitive answer: the Saint Bandits. However, he couldn't ask for guidance from the Saint Bandits, so the only option was to appraise it. As he was thinking about this, he suddenly heard a commotion outside. When he went outside to check, he found that the spirit beast and Shaoli had sneaked in to steal some peaches. As always, the spirit beast was on high alert and immediately noticed Jianghu's presence. "Master, you're back." Shaoli, who had been eating peaches, choked and shoved the rest of the peaches into her mouth. She turned to look at Jianghu and struggled to chew. "Senior brother." Jianghu was speechless. He sighed and sat down in a chair under the tree. Shaoli looked a bit confused and moved closer to him as she held the spirit beast in front of her as a shield. "Take a seat first and swallow whatever's in your mouth," Jianghu said calmly. Shaoli nodded and made an effort to swallow the deech whole. Jianghu couldn't help but feel amazed. She even swallowed the pit. Once Shaoli was seated, Jianghu silently activated the heavenly cauldron. He then took out the Archean Abyss Dragon Pearl. The pearl was large enough to be held with both hands. The spirit beast jumped excitedly when it saw the pearl. "Master, is this a gift for me? My friends did say you'd bring me a gift." Jianghu handed the pearl to Shaoli. "This is my gift?" Shaoli excitedly accepted the Archean Abyss Dragon Pearl. When she touched it, the pearl shimmered slightly, but there were no further changes. "What is this?" Shaoli asked curiously. "Food," Jianghu said. "Food?" Shaoli was quite surprised. She then asked, "Can I eat it?" "Go ahead." Jianghu nodded. Without a second thought, Shaoli took the pearl and bit into it. Crack. There was a crisp sound. Jianghu was stunned. He hadn't expected Shaoli to bite into the pearl. He thought she would swallow it whole. She had bitten the dragon pearl and it was now damaged. However, at that moment Shaoli's eyes reddened. Her lips quivered as she took out the pearl from her mouth. A pearly white tooth fell from her mouth. She cried, "Senior brother Jiang, this is too hard. I don't want to eat it anymore." With that, she placed the pearl on the table and refused to eat it again. Jianghu was speechless. He stared at the tooth on the table in confusion. Would a dragon's tooth fall off so easily? He appraised it. Jianghu was speechless. Chapter 658, Lu Xingqian is possessed. Milk teeth. Jianghu furrowed his brows as he looked at the teeth. Do dragons have milk teeth too? He raised his head and looked at the young girl in front of him. He suddenly realized that Shaoli was not much different from a human. "Senior brother Jiang, should we put these teeth on the roof or bury them in the ground?" Jianghu was puzzled. Why would they do that? Shaoli said, "Mother said that baby teeth grow quickly." "Is that so?" Jianghu examined Shaoli's mouth and noticed that it was her lower teeth. "So, should they be placed on the roof?" In an instant he flickered and appeared on the roof. He tried to find a good place to plant the dragon teeth. Only then did he return to the courtyard. Xiaoli was quite excited. Jianghu sighed inwardly. These dragon teeth should be worth quite a few spirit stones. The only strange thing was that the teeth still looked ordinary even after falling out from Xiaoli's mouth. It probably couldn't be sold. "Master, give me this," said the spirit beast as it reached for the Archean Abyss Dragon Pearl. However, the moment it touched it, the spirit beast was sent flying. Xiaoli looked puzzled. Jianghu didn't pay much attention to it and simply picked up the Archean Abyss Dragon Pearl and examined it. It seemed that the pearl didn't make Xiaoli any different. It didn't restore her strength or memory. Could it be that I'm using it the wrong way? Jianghu muttered to himself. But there was no method he knew of. Should he carry it with him? After some hesitation he asked Xiaoli, "Can this become smaller?" "Smaller?" Xiaoli tilted her head in thought. Then she grabbed the still drowsy spirit beast and said, "Shrink." As she said those words, the Archean Abyss Dragon Pearl emitted a faint blue light. Two thin beams of light extended and floated in front of Xiaoli. Finally, the beams of light followed her neck, and the pearl shrank in the light. When the light dissipated, Xiaoli had a nail-sized pearl around her neck. Jianghu began to doubt everything he knew about the pearl. Was the dragon pearl a pill of some sort? Xiaoli, on the other hand, was very happy. After thinking for a moment, Jianghu came up with a possibility. The pearl did belong to Xiaoli, but it wasn't inside her but was a gift from her elders. That made more sense. It made him even more curious about what the heavenly thunder was. Perhaps it was where the dragon clan lived. As for Xiaoli's appearance in the village, there were two possibilities. She had either mischievously run away or had escaped to this place. Either way, it was a bit troublesome. Fortunately, there was no need to worry too much. He should focus on getting stronger. However, to avoid endangering Xiaoli, he specifically sensed the pearl and found that there was still a faint trace of aura. He used the Mountain Sea Seal to suppress it, and the aura dissipated. It was not that the Mountain Sea Seal was exceptionally powerful, but the pearl was cooperating. At that moment, the spirit beast woke up and jumped in front of Jianghu. "Master, what do I get?" "A few tens of thousands of spirit stones." He didn't say it aloud. He would let it wait for a few days. Now was not the time to cash in the spirit beast. He needed to first understand the situation of the sect. The next day, Jianghu stood in front of the immortal peach tree and appraised it. The pearl would have to wait for another day. Almost 30,000 spirit stones? Jianghu breathed a sigh of relief. The increase in spirit stones was still manageable. If he used 30,000 from the 90,000, he would still be left with 60,000. It seemed like the rabbit would be satisfied with 40,000, leaving 20,000 spirit stones. The rest was a bit much. Jianghu left his residence and headed to the law enforcement hall. This time he had been away for less than 3 months, but it still felt like a long time had passed. There were no visible changes in the surroundings. After a while in the task hall, the senior at the counter smiled at him. "Junior brother Jiang, you are on time as ever. When are you planning to go out again?" Jianghu was speechless. It was probably impossible for him to go out. He wouldn't go out unless Hong Yuye came along with him. He couldn't intervene with Heavenly King Budong. He also needed to contact Feng Hua. Feng Hua would have considerable strength, and finding the main body would be tantamount to seeking death. He was in no rush. As long as Hong Yuye didn't urge him to do it, he could take his own time. Jianghu paid 1,000 spirit stones and left 1,500 to be paid over the next 3 months. He had dropped to 89,000 spirit stones. "If there are good missions, I'll have someone notify you, junior brother Jiang," the senior kindly offered as he left. Jianghu could only thank her quietly. Jianghu looked around but didn't see Lu Xingqian. He wondered what he was busy with again. In fact, he wanted to see in what state Lu Xingqian was. With a sigh, Jianghu headed for the Cliff of Broken Hearts. However, on the way, he suddenly felt the aura of a true dragon passing by him. He continued for a few steps before turning back to look. It was someone familiar. Lu Xingqian. However, there was something strange about his aura. The true dragon aura had become more pronounced than before, and there were also 2 other slightly weaker auras. These auras were well hidden, but Jianghu had been observing Lu Xingqian for a long time and was extremely sensitive to such things. Not to mention that his perception was far sharper than others. What's going on? Not only was the aura off, but he didn't even acknowledge me. Is this really Lu Xingqian? Jianghu wondered. However, he had already used his appraisal ability for today. "Senior brother Lu," he called out. The person on the other side didn't immediately stop but hesitated and turned to look at him. You called me? He seemed puzzled. Jianghu was surprised but maintained a smile. Yes, I was wondering if you have some time, senior brother. I have a few questions to ask you. I don't have time at the moment, he said. In that case, I apologize for disturbing you, senior brother, Jianghu said with an embarrassed bow. This was not Lu Xingchen. Only after Lu Xingchen had left did Jianghu turn back. He was not mistaken. Lu Xingchen was no longer Lu Xingchen. Has he been possessed? The aura just now was that of a true dragon. Is the true dragon's lingering soul now in control? Jianghu was shocked. The last time Lu Xingchen had sowed the seeds of malice, he had given the true dragon more power. And now it seemed to have overpowered Lu Xingchen. But this true dragon might be weaker than Xiaoli. Xiaoli didn't emit any aura, and no one knew she was a true dragon. I wonder if Lu Xingchen is still around. I need to find an opportunity to appraise him. The absence of Lu Xingchen would have a significant impact on him, as no one would inform him of the matters at the law enforcement hall. Some things were no longer as convenient as before. For instance, reporting undercover agents or getting on the list and so on. In just 3 months, it seemed that there were more changes in the sect than he had anticipated. Chapter 659, Creating a Charm Body. Back at the Cliff of Broken Hearts, Jianghu continued to think over Lu Xingchen's situation. He wasn't sure if it was real or fake. But would Lu Xingchen really play such a game? This was different from before. He had been possessed. Once he lost control, how could he compete with these three? Sighing, Jianghu felt somewhat helpless about having such a person around him. Sometimes it was entertaining to watch, but at other times, it was too dangerous. I wonder if I'll be able to see him tomorrow. Finding Lu Xingchen was not easy these days. He could be anywhere. If he left the sect, it would be even harder to locate him. Jianghu didn't believe that even the combination of a true dragon, a sorcerer, and a blood demon would be able to hide from the Heavenly Note sect. It felt like even appraisal wasn't enough. He also needed to appraise the sphere that had trapped the charm talent. If he couldn't meet Lu Xingchen tomorrow, he would appraise the purple pearl. However, the immortal peach tree's incarnation was imminent, and the seeds would appear when it happened. Those would also need to be appraised. After returning, there were more matters to attend to than he had anticipated. He hadn't even started on Feng Hua's case. He needed to do them one by one. After dealing with these trivial matters, he would pay a visit to the 100 Bones Forest to check on Bai Yi. In the Spirit Herb Garden, Ching Chou was delighted to see Jianghu. Even though there hadn't been much happening in the past 3 months, he was always worried about something happening. Small matters were nothing to fear. However, if a major incident occurred, they still needed Jianghu to oversee it. But with Lord Beast around, things were much better. Has anything happened in the sect recently? Jianghu asked. No, but senior sister Mingyi came to see you. Senior brother Han is also here, Ching Chou said. Did they mention anything? Jianghu asked curiously. He hadn't seen Mingyi for a long time and felt that she was quite dangerous. The latter was probably there to challenge him as he was likely on the verge of a breakthrough. No. Ching Chou shook his head. Senior sister Zhou Chan also came and asked about junior brother Lin Ji. When I told her he was at the mines, she went there. Jianghu nodded. In fact, Lin Ji was better off working quietly. It was good if he could stay away from his two friends. He felt guilty and inferior when it came to them. But it was different with Lord Beast, who had taught him. He had shown it all his flaws. How is Chu Chuan? Jianghu asked. Last time he came to challenge junior sister Xiaoli, and now he's taking care of his teeth, Ching Chou said in amusement. Jianghu didn't ask further, but instead went to check the situation in the Spirit Herb Garden. The herbs were one thing, but the people there were more important. After a quick check, he didn't find any issues on either side of the Spirit Herb Garden. By the way, senior brother Bu Yi came and said he has some high-grade spirit herb seeds. He hopes to collaborate, Ching Chou said. Did you accept them? Jianghu asked. No one dares to do such orders without your consent. Others don't dare to interfere, Ching Chou said. Jianghu nodded. He didn't dare to accept the seeds without appraising them. Senior brother Bu Yi also mentioned that the previous batch of high-grade seeds will have a new batch in 1 or 2 years, and he hopes to collaborate regularly, Ching Chou said as he looked at Jianghu. Jianghu remained silent. Purchasing high-grade spirit herb seeds was easy, but completing them without spending spirit stones was not. He told us to feel free to mention any requirements, said Qingqiu. Jianghu nodded. We'll see when the time comes. Now that he had reached the return to Void Realm, these spirit herb seeds were not as useful as before. However, he would definitely get a batch of blue bubbles if he received them. Not using spirit stones would be ideal. Without external threats, the spirit herb garden was relatively peaceful. As long as people in the sect didn't cause any trouble, everything was fine. In the past there were such incidents, but since Jianghu had reached the Golden Core realm, no one had dared to provoke him. This was the benefit of advancing in the cultivation world. After a rough inspection of the outer sect's spirit herb garden, Jianghu went to manage the herbs. After tending to the spirit herb garden, it was already evening. Jianghu returned to his house and hesitated before deciding to visit the 100 Bones forest. He couldn't handle other matters, so he might as well check on Bai Yi. When he reached the 100 Bones forest, Jianghu remained outside the valley. But what surprised him was that it seemed like the people were constantly walking out. It's rare to see Bai Yi leaving the valley, Jianghu was astonished. He didn't dare to underestimate Bai Yi. He knew that if he was careless, someone as powerful as Bai Yi could sense him. It's quite rare to see Bai Yi leaving the valley, Jianghu thought to himself. Although his cultivation was somewhat higher, Bai Yi, who had access to spirit herbs, likely had strong sensory abilities. Jianghu had to be careful to avoid being noticed. At that moment, Lian Qin came out pushing a wheelchair. In the wheelchair sat Bai Yi, who was still frail. His cultivation had stabilized and his injuries had mostly healed, but he had not fully recovered. Senior brother, where are you going this late? Lian Qin asked. Bai Yi looked up at the night sky. I need to confirm something. Confirm what? Lian Qin couldn't recall anything important. Do you remember senior brother Chen? Bai Yi asked. I do. Lian Qin nodded. His signs are unstable and I think he's planning something important, Bai Yi said. What is it? Lian Qin couldn't remember anything significant that was about to happen. I'm not sure. Success would mean he would rise. Failure would mean disaster. Do you want to help him, senior brother? No, I want to pass this information on to someone. Oh. Jianghu of the Cliff of Broken Hearts. Lian Qin frowned. What does this have to do with junior brother Jiang? Do you remember the rumors? Jianghu practices the blood wish path, and senior brother Chen is similar. Stronger individuals absorb weaker ones, Bai Yi said. So, what are you trying to confirm? Senior brother Chen's blood wish path. They chatted and walked away. They soon disappeared at the end of the road. It was only then that Jianghu came out from behind. He frowned. Senior brother Chen. He had almost forgotten about that person. Not just him but also Yin Wei. They were all related to the blood wish path. I don't know what these people are up to. If Bai Ye's information is accurate, it could indeed make trouble for me. It wasn't just the blood wish path. It was the fact that senior brother Chen's magical treasures were still in his possession, and he had yet to deal with them. Once they were discovered, it could become quite troublesome. But for now they are still sealed, so there shouldn't be any problems. Jianghu retreated to his residence. He had learned something new today. Bai Yi could read signs. In other words, he could foresee good or bad events. Shaking his head, Jianghu stopped thinking about it and focused on completing other tasks. Then he would concentrate on collecting bubbles. The next day, since Jianghu couldn't find Lu Xingqian, he appraised the sphere that had trapped the charm ability. Jianghu was surprised. He never expected that it would actually work. Even though it required the Heaven Lock technique and had only a certain probability of success, this was still incredible. It was equivalent to stripping away one's original constitution and creating a new one. If this was used on a large scale, it would be chaotic. So, who should he experiment on? Chapter 660, The Real Genius. The charm body was a unique constitution. It could bring numerous troubles. For those who possessed the charm body, living a peaceful life was almost impossible. This was the case for Ran Hui and his wife. Senior sister Yun Ruo was no exception. He had only survived because of the goo poison, otherwise he would have ended up dead. Even if the law enforcement hall captured her, she wouldn't have been in danger. The pavilion master of the Heavenly Joy Pavilion was not one to mess with. When Yun Ruo died, the law enforcement hall had to do everything in their power to quell his fury. They would never willingly kill Yun Ruo. Therefore, becoming a charm body meant there would be major changes around here and not necessarily good ones. Testing it on a good person would be akin to pushing them into a fire pit. I'll just wait for now. Jianghu sighed and put away the sphere. However, the appearance of a charm body would make the pavilion master pleased about it, which wasn't a bad thing for him. Otherwise, if that person couldn't restrain himself and chose to self-destruct in despair, the consequences would be unimaginable. But even if there's a candidate, handling this matter will be extremely troublesome. Jianghu shook his head and could only wait. The pavilion master wouldn't make a move against him for now. According to Lu Xingchen, the cliff master had negotiated with him. So, even if he went out of the sect, he should be safe. But no one knew if the pavilion master would abide by that. So, he didn't want to go outside. He stopped thinking about it and began to focus on his own affairs. That evening, he plucked the peaches and only left one behind. He then arranged an array to infuse the spirit stones into it. 30,000 spirit stones disappeared instantly. There were now 59,107 spirit stones left. A bright light appeared and everything merged into the final peach. The spirit beast exclaimed, "Master, where will I hang out from now on?" "The bamboo is still here," Jianghu said. The bamboo in the courtyard had grown huge. It had grown into something different because it was near divine items. Shaoli took care of it. She would water it and everything. The following morning, Jianghu woke up from his meditation and found that the peach tree had turned into ash on the ground. When he opened it, he saw a seed with spiritual energy inside. He appraised it. "In 3 days I'll be able to obtain a bubble. I wonder if it will be purple or golden." In the past they were mostly purple, so it was probably still the same now. If it turned out to be golden, that would be fine too. The spirit beast always gave a golden one. 3 days later, in the middle of November, the sky was clear. Jianghu arrived in the courtyard and saw the immortal peach tree taking root and sprouting. He also noticed a purple bubble. Jianghu smiled. He checked his interface. "My divine abilities are maxed out, but my cultivation is a bit low." He hadn't increased his cultivation since his last advancement because he had gone overseas shortly after. The main reason was that he had drunk a lot of the September spring tea. Speaking of September spring, Jianghu remembered the screen he had made. It was still in his storage treasure. He went to the bathroom, placed the screen properly, and felt that its design was somewhat ordinary. He might have to redesign it when he had the time. For now, he decided to focus on the divine ability. After a while, he finally welcomed a new divine ability. The divine abilities he currently possessed were frequently used. They were all extremely important to him. Who could complain about having too many divine abilities? No wonder Gue always wanted snow god pills. Having a good divine ability is of immense help in battle or for cultivation. Without thinking further, Jianghu entered his room, crossed his legs, and started to extract the divine ability. During the process, he felt changes in his body. It was a strange sensation that covered his entire body. It indicated that the divine ability was taking effect. In the southern region, Baizhu waited with Qiao Yi on a mountain peak. "Princess, who are you waiting for?" Qiao Yi asked. "The person I mentioned last time who is good at calculations," Baizhu said and then sighed. "I always feel that the southern region is full of troubles." Qiao Yi didn't quite understand. She felt that the princess didn't seem to like staying in the south. She had mentioned wanting to leave several times. The troubles and calamities had also been repeated many times, but she hadn't seen many disasters in the south. "Is the person you mentioned reliable?" Aoi asked. "They're here. Whether they are reliable or not, we'll find out," Baizhu said with a smile. Soon a middle-aged man arrived. He held a compass in his hand. Some white cranes followed him. "Immortal Baizhu, it's been long," said the middle-aged man and smiled. "Mr. Gu, your white cranes are not very polite." Baizhu glanced at a white crane beside him. The crane on the side shrank its neck in fear. Qiao Yi, on the other hand, was in shock as she stared at the man before her and the white cranes by his side. These white cranes were not ordinary ones. The man wasn't ordinary either. Such a powerful person was being so polite to the princess. Mr. Gu laughed awkwardly. "I already taught them a lesson. I hope you'll show some mercy." Indeed, they had been taught a lesson. While other guests were okay to mess with, they had to be careful with this one. Otherwise, he wouldn't know how his white cranes would die. Back when the water dragon had met a tragic fate, he had personally experienced it. Even if he ran away, his cultivation would plummet, and his vitality would dissipate. If his white cranes were targeted, they would have turned into a pile of dry bones long ago. I want to find out about someone. Baizhu got straight to the point. Tell me their name, Mr. Gu said. In Zichen, Baizhu said. The compass trembled and starlight appeared. Baizhu took a step back with Qiao Yi. She still felt that there was something wrong with this starlight, but she wasn't as apprehensive as before. Mr. Gu didn't seem to notice anything and just said with a wry smile, "This person is quite complicated. It might be challenging." Baizhu understood. It would be expensive and time-consuming. Well then, please help me find out about the Mountain Sea Sword sect that is coming to the south. Have you heard anything about it? Mr. Gu asked. A disciple of the Mountain Sea Sword sect is related to In Zichen. That's not difficult. It'll take about 3 days and I'll send the location to you. Mr. Gu nodded. Baizhu nodded and said, "You're right. Your cranes are indeed polite now." Mr. Gu smiled awkwardly and left. Baizhu let out a sigh of relief and then turned to Qiao Yi. "Auntie Qiao." She finally came to her senses and looked at the princess with disbelief. "Are you the genius of the royal family, princess?" "Of course," said Baizhu with a smile. "I've said it many times, but none of you believe me." Chapter 661, Meeting Hai Ming and Offering Him a Fruit. On the continent beneath the stars, Su Bai stood in front of the burning immortal formation, neither entering it nor letting others do so. He simply waited. No one knew what he was waiting for. Many people approached him, but they couldn't make him interested in other places. It seemed that as long as they informed him of everyone's finds, it was enough. On this day, while Mo Chuan and others were still exploring a new area following the Blue-Robed Senior, they discovered a secret chamber and some documents. While some were searching for other things, Mo Chuan began to read the documents. At first there was nothing special, but the more he read, the more alarmed he became. "What's wrong?" asked the Blue-Robed Senior. "Senior sister, take a look at this and this," Mo Chuan exclaimed. The Blue-Robed Senior took the books with doubt. At first she felt nothing, but the more she read, the more alarmed she became. She felt as though she had narrowly escaped death. It's a trap. If we had entered at that time, then... When she thought of that, her hands trembled. The content of the documents was extensive, but it all boiled down to one thing. The statement about being able to control the burning immortal formation was fake. It was a trap left for them. Once the formation was activated, the heavenly fire would burn all life. Even immortals wouldn't be able to resist. Everything would be incinerated and a catastrophe would unfold. They had almost entered the burning immortal formation and almost activated it. The horrifying nature of the revelation made it hard for them to stay calm. They exchanged glances and quickly left to find Su Bai. A little while later, Su Bai saw the books. "I expected this. You don't need to worry." "Senior brother, did you already know?" Mo Chuan couldn't believe it. "Why didn't you mention it, junior brother Su?" asked the Blue-Robed Senior. Su Bai smiled. "Don't you already know why, junior brother and senior sister?" The Blue-Robed Senior felt ashamed. They knew that if Su Bai had mentioned it at that time, they might not have entirely believed him either. They would have believed the documents they found and then would have argued with him. Their admiration for Su Bai grew even more. "By the way, the documents mention the Xianyuan sword," Mo Chuan said as he looked at the books. "It seems to contain an accurate burial location." "Where is it?" Su Bai asked curiously. "On the Sun Moon Peak." Mo Chuan frowned slightly. "There's only a name and nothing else. It'll be hard to find." "It's in the Black Heaven sect," Su Bai said. "I've been there. They have a Sun Moon Peak and the Xianyuan clan is also there. They probably don't know about the Xianyuan sword." The Xianyuan clan had already lost its inheritance, so it wasn't surprising that they didn't know about it. "Want to go check it out?" Mo Chuan asked curiously. Su Bai shook his head. They couldn't leave. Even if they could, there was no need to take the Xianyuan sword by force. Since the Grand Earth Emperor was about to appear, they could leave the sword for him. If someone else tried to take it, they could take it to the Bright Moon sect. The Clear School Sky might also get involved. After all, that sword was wielded by the human emperor back in the day. They would definitely be interested. Although there were not many records, they all indicated one thing. The human emperor had suppressed everything to ensure the survival of the human race. Jianghu slowly opened his eyes. His current spiritual powers had been reset to 0, but he had indeed obtained a new ability. Without much thought, he checked his interface. Indestructible Vajra? Although the name of the ability was interesting, it was unlikely to be genuinely unbreakable. Looking at it now, his body didn't change much. He decided to try using the ability and see what happened after activating it. In an instant, Jianghu felt his blood, flesh, and bones changing within his body. Faint golden light emanated from him, although there was no significant change. However, there was a massive transformation inside his body. He took out his heavenly blade and swung it. Clang. Firelight appeared, but his arm didn't sustain any damage. With the assistance of his return to void power, he swung the blade and it didn't have much effect either. He clenched his fist and felt the increase in strength. His speed should have been enhanced as well. Now, I practically have no weaknesses. Jianghu was quite satisfied with this new ability. It made him feel significantly safer. It also provided more attack methods. Although not as powerful as the heavenly blade, it only required lifeblood and not cultivation. I feel stronger. I want to test it on someone. Jianghu shook his head and sighed. I'm getting ahead of myself. Even if his mental state had improved, this showed how quickly his strength had increased beyond the scope of his mental resilience. Putting away the ability, Jianghu thought about where he should test it. He decided to look for Hai Ming. He used to keep an eye on me, but now he's nowhere to be seen. With that in mind, Jianghu took out the Thousand Faces treasure fan. Of course, he also had a fruit in his hand. It was the tranquil heart fruit. At the flowing waterfall, Hai Ming was instructing some disciples. You've done very well, everyone. Just go back and practice more. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. Thank you, Senior. All the disciples bowed. After the disciples left, Hai Ming's face darkened. He looked toward the distant woods. Since you've arrived, why don't you come out for a chat? Is hiding from the world a habit you can't break, my friend? Hiding from the world? How could it be? Said a voice and startled Hai Ming. Hai Ming, you didn't notice I was already behind you? It seems you've grown old. Hai Ming remained calm and turned to look at the newcomer. It was a weak-looking scholar holding a folding fan. On the fan, the words, Smiling Sansheng, flashed. The scholar looked at Hai Ming with a friendly smile, as if they were old friends who hadn't seen each other in years. Who are you, friend? Hai Ming asked. You're quite the actor, Jianghu said with a smile. I've come to catch up with you and share some things along the way. I'm not sure what you mean, friend, but if you want to share something, I don't mind, Hai Ming said. Calling someone like me friend doesn't sound right. How can you call me a friend? Jianghu looked at him with a big smile. You should call me old man instead. Hai Ming looked at Jianghu in indifference. Not funny? Jianghu stopped and then took out a tranquil heart fruit. These are fruits I bought overseas. They are supposedly quite good. Would you like one? Hai Ming sneered. Enjoy it yourself. In that case, I won't hold back. Jianghu took a bite of the fruit. The taste is just okay. By the way, I forgot to tell you that I picked all the fruit from this tree. I also brought the tree back with me. Don't you want to give it a try? Chapter 662. Killing you like slaughtering a dog. Jianghu continued to eat the fruit while observing the person in front of him. The other person remained stoic, without any noticeable change in his face. At times, he even wondered if he had the wrong person. Or perhaps he had been deceived by Madame Gong. But once the bow was drawn, the arrow must be released. Since he had come here, he would treat it as a game. Even if he embarrassed himself, it would be fine. That wouldn't affect Jianghu. Soon he moved to sit at the table. Why don't you come and sit with me? I followed your advice and went overseas. The trip was quite exciting and I learned a lot. I got so excited that I rushed here to share it with you, Jianghu said with a smile. I don't understand what you're talking about, but if you want to share something, I don't mind. Hai Ming said while sitting down comfortable. However, his eyes were cold. Smiling Sansheng's name hasn't come up in a long time. You went overseas and returned in such a short time, it doesn't add up. Have we not met before? Jianghu asked. The Thousand Faces treasure fan is known by many, Hai Ming said coldly. Jianghu lowered his head to look at the fan and chuckled. I see. Then he took 2 tranquil heart fruits out of his pocket and set them on the table. The entire tree only had 3 fruits in total. Are you sure you won't have one? Jianghu placed the fruits on the table and began eating the second one himself. The taste is just okay with a touch of spiritual energy but no benefit for cultivation. I don't know why they're so expensive. In fact, Jianghu didn't know the price of the fruits and he didn't ask. If he asked, he might not be able to eat them. How could he make Feng Hua suffer in vain? Since they're so ordinary, I won't eat them. You can enjoy them yourself, Hai Ming said. Well, I kindly invited you but you don't appreciate it, Jianghu said. He sounded somewhat disappointed. Friend, you are not from Heavenly Note sect, are you? Entering recklessly could lead to problems, Hai Ming said. He sounded friendly but his words held a threat. Aren't we friends? Would you reveal my presence to the sect? Jianghu smiled. After I get caught, I can confess your involvement. We are friends who share good times and bad. Hai Ming furrowed his brow. How could I dare to be friends with someone like you? In that case, will you inform the Heavenly Note sect that I infiltrated the sect? Jianghu asked after taking a bite of the second fruit. Hai Ming thought about it. Friend, please leave as soon as possible. Seems like you consider me a friend. In that case, I'll give you this fruit. Jianghu picked up the remaining fruit from the table and handed it to Hai Ming. Keep it for yourself, said Hai Ming coldly. Aren't we friends? Jianghu looked a bit angry. I kindly offered this to you and you refused it. Do you think lowly of me? Will you leave if I take it? Hai Ming asked. Of course. Jianghu nodded. Very well. Hai Ming extended his hand as if to accept the fruit. I hope you will leave soon and not return. Just a moment. Before I leave, there's something I want to do, or rather, something I want you to understand, Jianghu said as he got up and moved closer to Hai Ming Daoist. He then raised his fan and pointed it at him. At that moment, Hai Ming felt an inexplicable pressure emanating from Jianghu's primordial spirit. It immobilized him. He was unable to move. He watched as the fan pointed at his forehead. Swish. A flash of blade-like light cut across his entire body and sent him flying. Jianghu unfolded the fan and revealed the words, unrivaled in the world. Do you understand what I wanted to tell you now? Jianghu asked with a smile. Killing you is like slaughtering a dog. Today I've given you the first gift. There will be more to come. In the future, when you hear the name of Smiling Sanxing, you'll only know darkness. Ah. With that, Jianghu disappeared from the spot. Hai Ming felt a sense of dread, yet he remained silent. He clenched his fists. Back in the courtyard, Jianghu breathed a sigh of relief. Since he wanted to suppress Feng Hua, it needed to be done gradually. He had no other purpose for doing that except as revenge. Smiling Sanxing's name would strike fear in her. Otherwise, how could they communicate as equals? Feng Hua needed to know that there was no turning back. For that, she needed to be approached with caution. There were still 4 tranquil heart fruits left. The next time he contacted Feng Hua, he would eat them in front of her. He would eat the last one when he visited the Sunset Immortal sect. That would teach her. I wonder if she's getting anxious. Jianghu mused as he shed his disguise. Killing Hai Ming was not an option as he didn't dare to cause a disturbance within the sect. Besides, whether or not he killed Hai Ming had no impact on Feng Hua, as she could simply send another avatar. The first step had already been completed, and now he had to wait for the right opportunity. First, he needed to accumulate bubbles, which was the core of everything. Only when he became stronger would other matters become convenient. Otherwise, if Feng 1 Yue sent a more powerful avatar, it would complicate things and he would have to avoid her. Half a month later, at the beginning of December, Jianghu resumed control of the Spirit Herb Garden. Most people knew that he had returned. During this time, even Lianqin visited and mentioned that Chen might also be a Blood Wish Path cultivator. She wondered if he might target other Blood Wish Path cultivators. Jianghu merely smiled and didn't respond. He knew that this was a message passed on to him by Bai Yi. Apart from this, there was nothing else for now. Senior sister Ming Yi didn't appear, and Han Ming was also absent. It wasn't clear if they were too busy. In any case, nobody came to disturb him, which was something he found nice. Junior brother, you're back? Miao Tinglian greeted him. Senior sister Miao. Jianghu, who was taking care of the spirit herbs, stood up. You should look after junior sister Xiaoli more, Miao Tinglian said helplessly. What happened to Xiaoli? Jianghu was puzzled. Miao Tinglian sighed. Lately she's been acting strange and damaging a lot of things. It seems like she's having trouble controlling her power. If you don't handle this soon, the master will have to step in. Trouble controlling her power? Jianghu immediately thought of the Archean Abyss Dragon Pearl. It seemed like he needed to pay more attention to this. Chapter 663. Master Shaoli secretly brought me something to eat. On the outskirts of Madame Gong's residence, a person dressed in a black robe approached step by step. He arrived at a wall near the back door. He stared at it for a moment, then placed his hand on the wall. Soon a formation appeared. Then he placed a bottle of pills into it. He waited for a moment, but what he wanted didn't come out. Another moment passed. The pill came out again. The person didn't immediately take it but stood quietly. It was unclear how much time had passed before he picked up the pill and left. He remained unaffected. It seemed like he came and went calmly. No one knew what he wanted to do. Senior Sister Miao, I know about Shaoli's situation now, but why haven't you left yet? Jianghu asked. He looked around and noticed that senior brother Muqi was also nearby. He was searching for some spirit herbs. How old are you, junior brother? Miao Tinglian asked. 33, Jianghu said. 33? Will you turn 34 in a month? Miao Tinglian asked. Jianghu was speechless. Isn't 34 quite old? Miao Tinglian asked again. Jianghu didn't know how to respond. But yes, 34 was relatively old. He had never been this old before. Normal people would already be married with children by that age, right? Miao Tinglian said. Senior sister, do you have someone in mind? Jianghu asked. Oh, do I seem that predictable? Come, I'll show you. These are the ones I've scouted from various branches in the sect, Miao Tinglian said as she took out some portraits. Jianghu was speechless. Doesn't senior sister Miao practice her cultivation every day? Look at this one, a cultivator in the early stage of the Golden Core realm from the Ice Moon Valley. She's very obedient. When I mentioned you, her face turned red. She's excellent, Miao Tinglian said. Jianghu was at a loss for words. How about it? Do you like her? Miao Tinglian asked. Senior sister Miao, I think my cultivation realm is still too low, Jianghu said. I need to focus on that for now. Early 30s and already in the early stage of the Golden Core realm, you think it's still too low? Miao Tinglian asked. Then what am I? How old are you, senior sister? Jianghu asked. Muqi says I'm still a young maiden like the day he met me, Miao Tinglian said proudly. Jianghu was quite surprised. You met senior brother Muqi when you were that young? Yeah. Miao Tinglian didn't hide it. It had been quite a long time since she was in her teens. Jianghu nodded. But it seemed that Miao Tinglian was the only one who could attract senior brother Muqi of the Heavenly Note sect. Let's get back to business. If you think it's possible, you two can meet. I'll arrange it, Miao Tinglian said. Jianghu was speechless. It took a lot of effort to persuade senior brother Muqi to take her away. At noon, senior brother Buyi arrived. He came to discuss the matter of the spirit herb seeds. They were top-grade spirit herbs. Jianghu examined them and found that they required 3 months for germination, but Buyi's requirement was 6 months. It seemed like a normal request. Jianghu accepted it without making any additional demands. Buyi sighed with relief. As long as Jianghu agreed, they could continue their collaboration with the spirit herbs. Everything was going as planned. Members of the Candlelight Pill Pavilion were not concerned about this. Those who were still worried felt that their previous success might have been due to luck. Buyi, on the other hand, wasn't afraid of losses. He already felt indebted to Jianghu. If Jianghu wanted to try something else that incurred a little loss, he wasn't worried about it. This time the planting wasn't as extensive as before. There were only 105 seeds in total. Jianghu spent 3 days planting them just like before. He was responsible for these as well. Cheng Chou also discussed Shaoli's situation with him. Jianghu went to check and found that the pearl was nurturing Shaoli's body, which had disrupted her perception of her own strength. Jianghu had to suppress the pearl again. He suppressed it every 5 days and didn't completely seal it so that Shaoli could gradually adapt. With the pearl, Shaoli could defeat powerful opponents even if she was just in the Foundation establishment realm. She was safe, but her self-awareness was lacking. It wasn't suitable for her to leave the mountain. 1 month later, around early January, Jianghu had been waiting for senior sister Ming Yi and junior brother Han Ming. There were no changes in senior brother Qian Chen's situation, but there was no need to worry about it for now. The heart of the ancestral dragon had appeared for a long time now. It should have found its owner. This reunion should have taken place as well. However, it hadn't started yet, so it was likely that the owner had not been decided. After some hesitation, Jianghu called the spirit beast. "Master, what are we going to do today?" The spirit beast wiped its mouth and asked. "Is there anything that has happened lately?" Jianghu asked. "Nothing." The spirit beast shook its head. "Everything is fine." "That's good." Jianghu nodded, then grabbed the spirit beast by the ear and lifted it up. Then he went inside and tied it up. "Oh, is it time already, master?" The spirit beast was excited. Jianghu glared at it and told it that it wouldn't be allowed to eat anything other than spirit stones starting from tomorrow. The spirit beast readily agreed. The next day, Jianghu took out 490 spirit stones. "Master, shouldn't we start with a smaller amount?" asked the spirit beast. It was familiar with being tied up now. "Go ahead and eat," Jianghu said. The spirit beast could only eat one piece at a time. It crunched on the spirit stones happily. After eating half of it, the spirit beast hiccuped and couldn't eat any more. "Master, it seems the spirit stones don't show me respect," the spirit beast said. Jianghu looked at it but didn't say anything. It kept eating until late at night when it finally finished all the spirit stones. Jianghu sighed. He wouldn't be able to go to the spirit herb garden today. It was quite a loss. However, the situation with the spirit beast was critical. If there was a mistake, he would lose 409 spirit stones in a day, and he couldn't afford that. A month later, the spirit beast began to get used to it. It even began enjoying it. "Master, it's morning. It's time for breakfast." "Master, hurry up. Shaoli secretly got something for me to eat." "Master, I'm hungry." "Master." As time passed, the spirit beast started eating the spirit stones faster. Over a month later, 81 days had passed. It was almost the end of March. Jianghu breathed a sigh of relief. During this time, everything had gone smoothly. The growth of the top-grade spirit herbs had slowed down, but it could be compensated with a bit of extra spirit stones, so it wasn't a big issue. After collecting the bubbles, Jianghu appraised the spirit beast. "It seems to be the last time. It requires over 60,000 spirit stones." With only a little over 10,000 spirit stones left, after supplementing with some top-grade spirit herbs, he would have around 15,000 left. Recently, he had to take care of the spirit beast, manage the spirit herbs, and didn't have much time to earn spirit stones. He needed to start making talismans again. He had become more attached to the spirit beast. That wasn't good. He needed to release it soon. At that moment, he sensed the stone tablet vibrating. It's finally here. Chapter 664, The One Who Entered and Left the Abyssal. The gathering commenced at midnight, and Jianghu made some preparations before entering. Just like before, he went straight to the common area. However, this time he felt a difference. It seemed that something was glowing. It possibly meant that Senior Dan Yuan had experienced some changes in his cultivation. At that moment, everyone was slightly surprised. They noticed that Senior Dan Yuan appeared to be brighter than before. Had he become stronger? Everyone was curious, but they didn't dare ask. Alter ask Waning Ad out Tnao tasks, Semer Wan Yuan Turnia to Jianghu. "Young friend Jing, have you decided what you want?" Jianghu knew that they had found the true dragon. He nodded. "I'd like to obtain information about a person." Senior Dan Yuan asked, "Whom do you want to investigate this time?" Everyone appeared to be asking for information, whether related to the end of all things, the Great Thousand God sect, or something else. "I want information on Elder Yan's daughter, Yin Shang, from the Sunset Immortal sect." Senior Dan Yuan nodded. The others were curious. The situation was clear, especially to Gue. After that, they began the process of exchanging information. Xing had some recent matters to discuss and thanked Jianghu for his warning about the burning immortal formation. However, Jianghu waved it off and didn't pay much attention to it. "Do you need any information, friend Jing?" Xing asked. "I'd like information related to the freedom technique," Jianghu said. He had considered it. He had only warned Xing and the reward wouldn't be big for that. So, he decided to ask something he was genuinely curious about, such as the situation with Lu Xingqian. Over the past few months, he had been unable to find Lu Xingqian, and this had affected him. With Lu Xingqian being a genuine disciple of the Clear Sky School and someone who loved drama, he probably practiced the freedom technique. Jianghu thought that, from the freedom technique, he might be able to understand Lu Xingqian's condition. "Very well." Xing nodded. I can provide that information to you right away. Jianghu then saw some records of the freedom technique in the stone tablet, along with the beginning of its cultivation method and information about the freedom body. Jianghu was surprised by Xing's generosity, but he remained calm and continued with the exchange. There is a rather powerful person overseas who has escaped to the south. Lu looked at Gui and Jing. This person's name is Wu Yang. He seems to be injured severely. Please tell me if there is any news. Gui and Jing nodded. Jianghu couldn't get involved in something like this. All the people at this gathering were very powerful. He couldn't match up to them. He would keep his distance. I have a rough idea about Yin Zichen, said Gui. I'll keep an eye out. After that, when it came time for casual conversation, Jianghu was content to listen quietly because he didn't have much to say. Everyone else had a lot to say. It seems everyone has a lot to say today, Gui said. However, before anyone else could speak, she said, I'll go first. The disciples of the Mountain Sea Sword sect have come to the southern region, and there are many of them. They have a clear purpose, but I don't know what they intend to do. I found it strange that the end of all things hasn't made much progress recently. It turns out that the disciples of the Mountain Sea Sword sect encountered them. When facing the Mountain Sea Sword sect, they had to retreat. Jianghu was surprised to hear that the disciples of the Mountain Sea Sword sect had arrived in the southern region. However, he considered it a good thing because it would delay the end of all things actions. The end of all things, a force that dared to challenge the Bright Moon sect, had to protect their own. Is it because of the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl that they've come here? Lu asked. It's possible that they're here for something else, Xing said. The Jade Emperor's Sword and the Shenyuan Sword are also here in the southern region. The appearance of a Grand Earth Emperor is imminent, and the Mountain Sea Sword sect might have detected the aura of the Shenyuan Sword. The divine artifact is in the south? Gui was surprised. She had always thought that the southern region only had dangerous entities, like the Heavenly Fate Misfortune Pearl, the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl, and 9 Nether. According to records, it is indeed in the south, and the people from the Black Heaven sect may have already discovered it, Xing said. Why would the Mountain Sea Sword sect seek to claim the sword? Gui asked. At that point, there was soft laughter from the highest seat, and Dan Yuan said, the sword of the human emperor contains the sword's intent of that era and holds unimaginable power. Naturally, they will want to make use of it. However, it won't happen so soon. If anyone comes, it's probably some impatient disciples taking matters into their own hands. Jianghu remained silent. He had known that the Shenyuan sword was in the southern region, but he didn't have the exact location. Xing might know, but he hadn't disclosed it. What happened overseas? Gui curiously asked. The issue with the dragon heart was making a lot of noise earlier, but it had gone quiet recently. Lu glanced at Jing. This left Xing and Gui puzzled. They wondered why Lu was looking at Jing. Jianghu was exasperated. The matter with the ancestral dragon's heart has been concluded, Lu said simply. Who obtained it? Gui asked. No one obtained it. Those individuals who took hold of it are using it collectively. But it seems like there hasn't been any information about it lately. Gui was puzzled. Such a significant event should have generated some news. Because another incident overshadowed it and put immense pressure on those powerful individuals, Lu said. This made Xing and Gui even more curious. They looked at Lu and eagerly waited for more details. Even Dan Yuan seemed curious. Lu glanced at Jing. At the time when the ancestral dragon's heart appeared, something else happened too. A person ventured into the abyssal sea alone. He wasn't devoured by it. Instead, he brought something out of the abyss. A blue beam of light illuminated the abyssal sea, and a true dragon's shadow dominated the world. He disappeared after that. No one knows what he brought out. All we know is that it's related to the dragon clan and exceptionally powerful. Gui guessed who the person might be. Yes. Lu nodded. Smiling San Sheng. Chapter 665, Fear. Jianghu felt somewhat embarrassed when he listened to Lu talking about him. The story he told differed significantly from what had actually happened. If the truth was revealed, he would indeed have a hard time staying here. Fortunately, it was smiling San Sheng, and that made it somewhat easier for Jianghu. However, when Lu mentioned the name, everyone turned to look at Jianghu. Don't look at me. Jianghu sighed inwardly. At that moment, Gui asked the question everyone had been thinking of. Friend, Jing, what did you bring out from the abyssal sea? Jianghu felt that Xing and Lu were both sighing in relief at the question. With Gui around, it was convenient for all of them to ask the questions they all wanted the answers to. It's just a small item. Nothing more important than returning to its original owner, said Jianghu. Everyone began to speculate on their own. Because Gui was in the southern region, she was most concerned about these matters. Did returning it to its rightful owner mean that Jing had been planning something related to the Abyssal Sea? Why did this item appear? Was it because the heart of the ancestral dragon would resonate with it? Then why did the heart of the ancestral dragon appear at all? It was because the Saint Bandit seal had been broken. But why was the seal broken? It was because the Xinyuan clan was beginning to rise, and the Grand Earth Emperor was about to appear. The Grand Earth Emperor's appearance was due to the emergence of the Heavenly Dao Foundation establishment and the Heavenly Fate Misfortune Pearl. Jing had been involved in both of those events. The only unknown thing was how the Xinyuan clan had risen. But it was certain that someone had helped the Xinyuan clan. Everything was connected. For a moment, Gui was filled with fear. If her speculation was true, then everything was related to Jing. Could he be the mastermind behind everything? All of these events started when Jing arrived in the southern region. In just over a decade, the southern region had undergone earth-shaking changes. At that point, Jing's mysterious persona was becoming even more apparent, at least for Gui. Seeing their surprise, Jianghu felt somewhat relieved. It was best not to ask too much. However, he had not lied. He had returned the pearl to its rightful owner. It was already with Shaoli and it had little to nothing to do with him. "Friend Jing, are you still overseas?" Dan Yuan asked. Jianghu shook his head. "I'm already in the southern region." Gui's face changed. That meant Nine Nether was in the south right now. For some reason she was suddenly less afraid than before. When the Heavenly Fate Misfortune Pearl had appeared in the south, she had been worried. When the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl also appeared in the southern region, she felt that her life was over. But with Nine Nether in the south she didn't care. If one of the items exploded, everything would be annihilated. In that case, friend Jing, you should pay attention to the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl. You have some affinity with such ancient items, Dan Yuan said with a smile. Jianghu nodded in agreement. He had already sensed it once and it seemed to be nearby. He would pay attention to it even if Dan Yuan had not mentioned it. Regardless, he did not want to take any risks. After the gathering they talked about other news. Most of the discussion revolved around the Heavenly King Hai Luo and Shang'an. Xing's words caught Jianghu's attention. This made him think of Lu Xingchen. For a moment, he wondered if Lu Xingchen had gotten himself into trouble. The meeting ended. Jianghu learned that Gui was planning to search for the Xinyuan sword, which might have something to do with the person she was looking for. Xing and Lu, on the other hand, did not seem to have any intention of doing so. Inside the wooden house, Jianghu opened his eyes. He immediately took out a notebook and began recording the freedom technique. The freedom technique could be divided into 3 categories: the technique itself, the free-form body, and some introductions to it. The technique was only described up to the primordial spirit realm, but the free-form was complete. The introduction to it provided a more comprehensive study. He wrote down everything. Fortunately, he had a good memory, but he was afraid he would forget it after a while. The freedom technique is indeed remarkable. It firmly believes in one's own path and strengthens one's beliefs and freedom from constraints. It's not suitable for me, but it could be useful for others. If he taught it to someone else, there shouldn't be a problem. After all, Jing and Jianghu were related in the eyes of those at the gathering. The main issue was whether the Clear Sky School would intervene. It was their technique after all. However, the Clear Sky School was in the eastern region and had almost no presence in the southern region. It was challenging to control something from that great a distance. It was just that recently, people from the Clear Sky School were in the south. It was troublesome to teach someone else the technique. After that, he read about the free form. It was about condensing an avatar, which required transferring of primordial spirit. Unlike the Great Thousand spiritual avatar of the Great Thousand God sect, it could not act independently. The advantage was that it could be nourished by the main body's power. Strengthening the clone would also nourish the main body and ensure that the cultivation realm remained high. Therefore, no matter which body he used, it would not significantly affect his overall strength. Very powerful, but unfortunately, I don't cultivate avatars. Jianghu shook his head. He cultivated the Hong Ming Heart Sutra, which didn't need avatars. After that, he read the introduction to freedom technique. Most of it was about abilities, and it was impossible to determine Lu Xingqian's level from it. It was only when he saw the section on the gifted that he was alarmed. Many people practiced the freedom technique, but only a few were suitable for it. Those who could cultivate a freedom spirit were extremely rare. The freedom spirit was unrestrained, vast, limitless, and extremely rare. Everyone who cultivated the freedom spirit was a disciple of the Clear Sky School, not because only they could do it but because they were chosen by the sect. The Clear Sky School didn't conceal the freedom technique. Anyone who had received the knowledge could cultivate it. However, those who cultivated the freedom spirit were easier to keep an eye on. Jianghu was stunned. It seemed that the freedom spirit was related to the Clear Sky School. So that's how it is. Jianghu was surprised. In that case, could Lu Xingqian have a freedom spirit? That's why he was able to suppress those remnants all along. If he were to combine it with some treasures, he would be even more powerful. But I'm not sure if Lu Xingqian really has a freedom spirit. If he does, how could there be problems with his spirit and aura? Jianghu shook his head. He couldn't find an answer. But the probability of him having a freedom spirit was high. After that, Jianghu began recording the details of the gathering. There wasn't much, but it was evident that the southern region would face issues in the future. For now, it seemed unrelated to the Heavenly Note sect. So, he could focus on growing spirit herbs. At the 100 Flowers Lake, a figure in red and white sat in a pavilion and gazed at the moonlight. There was a cup of tea beside her. After some time she finally said, "Is there any news?" Baiji, who had been waiting for a while, respectfully said, "We've found a target." "You found Feng Hua?" Hong Yuye looked at Baiji. "The situation with Feng Hua is more complicated than expected. We've only found some of their avatars so far. We haven't located their main body. However, we received information from overseas that due to internal conflicts in the Heavenly Tower, a powerful individual sought refuge in the southern region. We plan to capture him and obtain more information from him," Baiji said. Chapter 666. Time is truly a delicate blade. "The people from the Heavenly Tower?" asked Hong Yuye. "Yes, according to the information overseas, he was a strong contender qualified to compete for the master position, but he was defeated. So he had no choice but to escape to the southern region. Our people have already identified his location, and the leaders of various branches have set out. Once we catch him, we will be able to obtain more information about Feng Hua and the end of all things." These forces were already investigating the situation regarding the Heavenly Note sect. Hong Yuye nodded. "Is there anything else?" "It seems that the Grand Earth Emperor is about to appear. Recently, people from the Mountain Sea Sword sect have arrived in the southern region. They greeted us and mentioned that someone would come to visit in some time. It seems to be related to Kendo. They should be here in goodwill," Baiji said. "What did Kendo say after watching Heaven Lock?" Hong Yuye asked. "He said that the most important part of Heaven Lock cannot be exposed and he hopes that we can keep it sealed. This object can turn the world of cultivation upside down," Baiji replied. At first, she was quite shaken when she heard about these things. She had never imagined that Heaven Lock was so terrifying. She would naturally consider Kendo's words. However, she couldn't dare to take back the command she had received from the sect master, which was to hand Heaven Lock to Jianghu. In addition, she suspected that Jianghu might have seen the most important part of Heaven Lock. The unusual actions of Yin Sha, along with the demands of the Saint Bandits member Nan Gongyu, all indicated one thing. The Saint Bandits paid great attention to Jianghu, or more precisely, the person behind him. Regarding Heaven Lock, there's no need to worry too much. "Let's just go with the flow," Hong Yuye said calmly. "Recently, the sect has found some traitors, but their agendas are quite ordinary. There is an elder who was bribed by the Sunset Immortal sect, but he hasn't acted yet. We haven't made a move either. We're currently looking for an opportunity to uncover the Sunset Immortal sect's involvement." Jianghu recently went out. He seems to be seeking an opportunity to improve his cultivation. He's just one step away. Although he often has some involvement with the spies, it's only suspicion, and we can't find any concrete evidence. The Heavenly Fragrance Dao flower hasn't shown any changes. It seems that the people targeting it have completely gone into hiding. Hong Yuye gazed at the teacup on the table with a slight frown. "The Grand Earth Emperor is about to appear?" she suddenly asked. "Yes." Baiji nodded. "Send some people to the Black Heaven sect," Hong Yuye said. Baiji was puzzled. Why did they need to send people when the Grand Earth Emperor was about to appear? Who should they send? As she hesitated, Hong Yuye dismissed her. In the end she could only bow and leave. After leaving, Baiji frowned. Does the sect master have some plan, or was that just a casual remark? When the Grand Earth Emperor appears, should we send people there because his appearance will bring about an omen and offer benefits? That should be the case. Let's make the arrangements. They should handle it on their own. For now, our top priority is to capture the Heavenly Tower's members. In the wooden house at the Cliff of Broken Hearts, Jianghu finished writing down everything. At the meeting, Dan Yuan's tasks remained focused on the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl and the Heavenly Fragrance Dao Flower. Xing didn't make any transactions. Lu wanted to find Wu Yang, and Gui had finished her transaction and only needed to keep an eye out. The ancestral dragon's heart had been jointly accepted, and smiling San Sheng had earned quite a reputation. If only I could go to the mines. Jianghu chuckled and began to meditate. He needed peace of mind and to begin cultivating high-quality spirit herbs. 150 spirit herbs were left, and it was time to cultivate them carefully. The matter with the spirit beast had been concluded, so there was no need to be distracted by it. However, there were only 2 months left for the spirit herbs to grow, so he might need to spend some spirit stones. Jianghu checked his interface. Halfway there. It seems that the next step for advancement is not far off. With the boost from the high-quality spirit herbs, his cultivation had indeed increased significantly. Now he had over 10,000 spirit stones which he could actually use for cultivation. I wonder if senior brother Bu Yi is still around. Jianghu observed the spirit herbs. Their quality was acceptable. Satisfied with what he saw, he decided to have Ching Chou find the people he was looking for. Then he went to take care of the spirit herbs. During this time there had been a stir in the sect for some reason. They had begun selecting outstanding disciples from various branches, but no one knew the purpose of it. One thing that was certain was that there would be benefits involved. Many senior and branch masters would be accompanying them, so the opportunity was rare, and many people were striving for it. Miao Tinglian came to ask him if he wanted to participate, but Jianghu politely declined. He didn't believe this kind of thing was without danger. So he continued to cultivate spirit herbs. In some time he would be able to advance to the middle stage of the return to the Void Realm. There was no more significant benefit than this. One day Jianghu finally saw the person he wanted to meet. It was junior brother Han Ming. He looked as young as he did at 18, but his aura had undergone a tremendous transformation. With his tall and slender body, he exuded a formidable aura when wielding a sword. His eyes shone brilliantly. He was not at the early stage of the Golden Core realm. You're truly amazing, Jianghu said in praise. 16 years ago, when Han Ming had just started, he was at the early stage of the Foundation Establishment realm. Now he had quietly grown into a formidable Golden Core realm cultivator. Time was indeed a delicate blade that had sculpted Han Ming into such an outstanding individual. Senior brother Jiang, we meet again, Han Ming said politely. Junior brother, you're too polite. It's an honor to meet you after your advancement. Jianghu smiled. Han Ming didn't beat around the bush and stated his intention. I'd like to challenge you, senior brother Jiang. Chapter 667. Beaten to a pulp. Inside the courtyard of the Candlelight Pill Pavilion, a young man sat at the highest spot. He was explaining the path of alchemy and occasionally touched upon the path of cultivation. The listeners gathered below were mostly disciples from various branches. Their cultivation realms were decent, but their talents were not that exceptional. To make further progress, they needed someone to teach them diligently. The senior disciple before them was undoubtedly doing just that. Junior sister Xiaolan, although your aura is stable, you've been unable to make a breakthrough for a while. It's not due to your lack of talent, but because there is a hidden problem within you. As he spoke, he took out a pill and handed it to her. Take this and consume it. It won't be long before you can attempt a breakthrough. However, you must be extremely cautious. Even if someone guides you through the process, success in cultivation relies entirely on the individual. Don't rush it. The woman who had been listening below was shocked. She accepted the pill and expressed her gratitude. As the lecture came to an end, the audience reluctantly departed. The man seated at the top, who had been gentle and warm, now appeared indifferent. It was as though nothing could stir his emotions. How is the investigation going? he suddenly asked. We haven't found anything concrete, but his behavior does match. A man appeared in the corner of the courtyard. We spread the information about the Blood Wish path. Initially, I merely intended to use him as a scapegoat, but he seems to have reversed the roles. He made more people willingly sacrifice their blood for him. For a moment, I couldn't comprehend whether he was a practitioner of the Blood Wish path or not. There is also another force working in the background, clearly leveraging this reputation. If it's him, then we need to be cautious, the man said in concern. No matter what, his strength is real. If you want to devour him, Senior Brother Chen, it won't be difficult. The man lurking in the corner of the courtyard said, if he practices the Blood Wish path, he will be a great supplement for me. If he doesn't, he's still a delicious morsel. Do we continue the investigation? Let's continue. We'll see when he advances. If he does so in the next year or two, he's most likely a practitioner of the Blood Wish path. A very talented one at that. Then we will need his assistance when the seniors of the sect go out. However, we must find a way to enter Devil's Denver. We'll have to wait for the next sect mission. What do you plan to do with the blood pool, Senior Brother Chen? Let's go to the northern region. We founded our own sect, so there's no need to stay in this place. The southern region appears calm on the surface, but there are hidden undercurrents. Okay, we will follow your orders, Senior Brother Chen. If there's any change in Jianghu's cultivation realm soon, let me know. I will contact him, but the rest of you need to be patient. Understood. After the shadowy figure in the corner disappeared, Chen finally looked up at the sky and let out a deep sigh. No one knew what he was thinking. At the Cliff of Broken Hearts, Jianghu readily accepted Han Ming's challenge. This duel was a long-awaited event, not only for Han Ming but also for Jianghu. After returning, he had been waiting for Han Ming to become a Golden Core Realm cultivator. Han Ming didn't disappoint. Senior Brother Jianghu, did you go out recently? Han Ming asked. Yes. As you suggested, I went out to hone my skills. However, the effect was minimal. It was nowhere near as good as what you've achieved, Jianghu said with a smile. He had no ill feelings toward Han Ming. Despite the constant challenges, Han Ming always acknowledged his defeat without any resentment. He had never made any underhanded moves. Han Ming was an excellent junior. Furthermore, his talent was extraordinary, and he had matured with age. He excelled in various fields. Han Ming sneered. Where do you want to have our duel? Let's go somewhere more isolated, Jianghu said. They quickly arrived near the wooden house. Here will do, Jianghu said. All right, I won't hold back. Han Ming firmly grasped the hilt of his sword. He had already pictured this many times, and this sword had been kept secret for a long time. Based on past experiences, his victory or defeat would likely be determined in the first move. Losing the first exchange would mean failure. Thus, he created a remarkable sword technique that would make Jianghu realize the danger of relying on luck. I'm going to attack, Han Ming said as a warning. Come on. Jianghu nodded. The half-moon blade was already in his hand. However, in the next moment, Jianghu narrowed his eyes. Han Ming's aura suddenly surged forward with the power of thunder. In that instant he saw a breathtakingly brilliant sword technique. Clang. The sword and the blade clashed. In the blink of an eye, Han Ming appeared behind Jianghu. His sword was still in his hand, but his arm was dripping with blood. Jianghu's grip on his sword had resulted in a small crack. A few strands of hair had fallen from his head. Staring at the fallen hair, Jianghu was filled with shock and realized that he had been too serious in this fight. He had nearly struck too hard. Even though Jianghu was only in the middle stage of the Golden Core realm, if he had attacked too forcefully, it could have been extremely dangerous. Fortunately, the injury was minor. Han Ming coughed up a mouthful of blood. You're truly extraordinary, junior brother Han Ming. Jianghu turned around. Being considered for the position of a top disciple was no trivial matter. He was the most hard-working and talented person Jianghu had ever seen. Jianghu had no concept of how others performed, but Han Ming had grown under his watch. He had witnessed every stage of Han Ming's journey. Han Ming grasped the sword and looked at Jianghu in disbelief. Middle stage of the Golden Core realm. I just got lucky, Jianghu said modestly. Han Ming looked at him bitterly, but he quickly regained his determination. Then he turned and left. Jianghu watched him silently. Han Ming didn't need his help. He was a person who could walk his own path. He had a bright future ahead of him. At that moment, Jianghu had officially reached the middle stage of the Golden Core realm. The next step was to see when Han Ming would advance to the middle stage of the Golden Core realm. Shaking his head, Jianghu went to the Spirit Herb Garden. After attending to his tasks, he inquired about Chu Chuan's whereabouts. It had been a while since he last paid attention to him, and it was time to check up on him. Perhaps in a few more years he would be ready. "Why are you looking for Chu Chuan today, senior brother?" asked Shaoli in a hushed tone. "I just want to check on him," Jianghu said. "Is there something wrong?" "He was beaten to a pulp by Shaoli this morning," said the spirit beast while munching on a carrot. Jianghu nodded. He wasn't surprised. However, when he saw Chu Chuan, he couldn't help but be astonished. At this moment, Chu Chuan lay on the bed. It seemed as though his bones were broken. He turned to Shaoli and noticed she was looking outside with the spirit beast cradled to her chest. "What happened to Chu Chuan?" Jianghu asked. "He said that you, master, don't have a lady." Shaoli said you did have a senior sister by your side. Shaoli was upset. They started arguing. And then Chu Chuan suggested fighting to determine who was right. "Then this happened," said the spirit beast. At this point, Chu Chuan looked at Jianghu. He couldn't even move a finger. Jianghu was speechless. Chapter 668. He would eventually leave the mountain. "Why are you at odds with Shaoli?" Jianghu used quite a bit of power to heal Chu Chuan. "It's nothing. Senior sister Shaoli is too heavy-handed sometimes," said Chu Chuan softly. After all, the one who had used force was still present in the room. Jianghu shook his head. "Let's go. Take a walk with me." "What about me, senior brother?" Shaoli asked. "It's lunchtime. Go eat something," Jianghu said to her. Shaoli immediately ran to the cafeteria with the spirit beast. "Bye, senior brother." Watching her run away, Jianghu smiled. Then he stepped out of the room and Chu Chuan followed closely behind. They walked to the mountaintop. Jianghu asked, "How's your cultivation going?" "I went to the Devil's Den, and I'm about to reach the late stage of the Foundation Establishment realm," Chu Chuan said excitedly. Jianghu nodded. Indeed, Chu Chuan was on the verge of advancement. Within the next year or two, he should be able to successfully enter the late stage. It was quite impressive. He was only 22 at the moment. However, the gap between him and Chu Jia was still huge. Chu Jia was already at the Golden Core realm. "Are you still practicing the 100 revolution of the heavenly note?" Jianghu asked and looked down at the river below the mountain. "Yes." Chu Chuan nodded. "How does it feel?" Jianghu turned to him. "Huh." Chu Chuan was puzzled. There were no issues so far. "I'll teach you a new cultivation method and a set of blade techniques," Jianghu said. After obtaining the freedom technique a few months ago, he had already understood how to cultivate it. He had also modified a small part of it without a worry for future deviations. After a while, Chu Chuan activated the freedom technique, and a gleam of light shone in his eyes. He was delighted. This technique was better than the 100 revolutions of the heavenly note and more suitable for him. "How did you obtain it, senior brother?" "Don't ask too many questions. If someone asks, just say you found it yourself," Jianghu said. "Understood." Chu Chuan nodded. "This method is called the freedom technique. It's relatively safe to use but still be a little cautious," Jianghu said. Chu Chuan listened attentively. The freedom technique suited Chu Chuan but wasn't entirely perfect for him. Nevertheless, it was better than the 100 revolutions of the heavenly note. This might make it easier for him to catch up with Chu Jia. She was outstanding, not just in talent but also with powerful forces supporting her. It would be incredibly challenging for Chu Chuan to catch up by himself. "Senior brother Jiang, what cultivation realm do you think Chu Jia is in now?" Chu Chuan suddenly asked. Jianghu looked at him. "Very high." "How high?" Chu Chuan asked. He was almost as tall as Jianghu now. He was full of spirit and vigor. He was in stark contrast to the dark kid Jianghu had seen before. Shaoli wasn't even as tall as his shoulders. It was no wonder he felt confident and challenged Shaoli sometimes. Jianghu didn't answer him. "Just keep trying and aiming high. That's all for now. Let's go. I'll teach you the blade techniques." Jianghu headed toward an open space. Only Chu Chuan could learn both the freedom technique and the blade techniques at the same time. Lin Ji cultivated the techniques of the Bright Moon sect, and the treasure within him resonated with it. The freedom technique didn't suit him. The modified blade techniques also weren't suitable for Lin Ji's spiritual essence. They were more fitting for the indomitable Chu Chuan. Have you considered the consequences of getting involved in combat? Jianghu asked. I have. Chu Chuan nodded. What did you think about it? Jianghu asked. Chu Chuan hesitated. I've thought about success, and about failure. But I've never considered giving up. Jianghu looked at him and didn't say anything. He began instructing Chu Chuan in the modified blade techniques, which he split into 9 forms without naming them. He could only teach the basics in the first form. The rest needed further study. Chu Chuan wasn't a quick learner, but he remembered everything. Do I have to use a blade in the future? Jianghu shook his head. No. Use whatever you feel is comfortable for you. This is for your self-defense. Huh? Chu Chuan was puzzled. What do you mean, senior brother Jiang? Jianghu looked at him. If you want to follow in Chu Jie's footsteps, you can't stay in the Heavenly Note sect forever. This place will only limit your development. At some point in time, you'll have to leave the mountain. Chu Chuan was taken aback. He had always considered this place as his home and never thought of leaving. However, sometimes leaving was the only way forward. Don't worry too much about it for now. The 4 regions will be your stage and you can always return to the Heavenly Note sect. Someday you will make a name for yourself in all 4 regions, said Jianghu. Chu Chuan was the most likely to attract trouble. He might even be the first to leave the sect. His path couldn't be confined to the Heavenly Note sect as it would hinder his growth. Jianghu turned and left. Chu Chuan hadn't fully processed everything he had heard, but it didn't bother him. He eventually left the mountain. It was inevitable. He understood that his world shouldn't be confined to the Heavenly Note sect but should flourish in all 4 regions. This was what made Chu Chuan different from Lin Ji. While the former was ambitious, the latter wished for a quiet life. As for Shaoli and the spirit beast, they were carefree. The next day, at the entrance of the spirit herb garden, Qingqiu informed Jianghu that senior brother Bu Yi was satisfied with the herbs and hoped for further cooperation in the future. Jianghu smiled. Are there any problems with your cultivation? He asked. Qingqiu's talent was average, and his progress wasn't as fast as Chu Chuan's. He needed careful guidance. Yes, there are a few, Qingqiu said earnestly. Later that day, Jianghu spent most of the time explaining problems in cultivation to Qingqiu. He guided him from the afternoon till late at night. Don't rush it. Take it slow. It's crucial to steady your mind. Step by step, with a solid foundation, there is hope for you to reach the Golden Core realm, Jianghu said. I will heed all your instructions, senior brother Jiang, said Qingqiu gratefully. For others, reaching the Golden Core realm was within easy reach, but for him, it was a distant dream. However, it seemed like he really had a chance now. It was all thanks to the guidance that Jianghu had provided him with. Jianghu just shook his head. It was a minor matter to him. The other person had helped him quite a bit. With that, Jianghu returned to the courtyard after spending more peaceful months than he had anticipated. Sitting under the peach tree, he took out the tranquil heart fruits. He was deep in thought. I should find a time to contact Feng Hua. It's been so long. She probably wants to see me. But I can't be hasty. I have to wait for Hong Yuya. Feng Hua would play mind games with him, and he lacked the knowledge of formations to defend himself without Hong Yuya around. It required a considerable amount of energy, especially when the person kept stalling for time. If he was discovered, it would be a disaster. Since he wanted to hurt the person, he couldn't reveal his weaknesses. There was no rush. He could focus on selling talismans to earn spirit stones during this time. Jianghu took out his half-moon blade. It already had a crack on it. I've lost a few thousand spirit stones already. Jianghu sighed. It was time for a new half-moon blade. The next day, Jianghu arrived at the marketplace, set up his stall and waited for buyers. After a while, he saw a man standing approach his stall. The man looked skeptical. It was senior brother Duanguan. Jianghu was speechless. This senior had a lot of spirit stones, but he was often rude to Jianghu. Chapter 669. Wait 100 years. If 100 years isn't enough, 200 would be. Duanguan looked at the talismans on Jianghu's stall. You have the heavenly sword talismans too? Yes. Jianghu nodded. Are there any other talismans? Duanguan asked. For now, I don't have any at the same level. Jianghu shook his head. He hadn't learned them yet. However, it wouldn't be difficult for him. He had learned from Mi Lingyue for a long time, and these talismans wouldn't pose a challenge for him. You're wasting your talent, Duanguan said coldly. You think you have some talent, but you don't focus on honing your skills. Sooner or later you will find it difficult to progress in talisman making. By then you won't even be able to set up a stall. Jianghu remained calm. He wanted to see what more this senior would say. However, Duanguan had already left. He took away all the talismans and left behind 600 spirit stones. Senior brother Duanguan was indeed rarely wealthy. Every time he met Jianghu, he would buy everything that was in his stall. Later he went to look at a blade. It was long, jet black, and had a slight curve. It could cut through anything effortlessly. It was made of a material that could corrode flesh and blood. How much is this blade? Jianghu liked it very much. 7,000 spirit stones, said the stall owner. He was a middle-aged man. The material is exceptional. If it weren't for the fact that the forging could have been better, it would cost more. Jianghu nodded in agreement. It was a decent blade but was only at the golden core realm. He felt that 7,000 for it was too expensive. After bargaining for half a day, they settled at 6,700 spirit stones. Jianghu sighed. He still had a long way to go in the golden core realm, and it wouldn't hurt to have a good weapon. Judging by its hardness, it could rival even treasures at a higher realm. The stall owner warned him that the blade could be wiped with cloth but shouldn't be touched with bare hands. Jianghu didn't mind. This level of power wouldn't affect him. After that he bought some tea. He deliberately bought a more expensive variety of it. He chose the ancient spirit tea, which cost him 5,000 spirit stones. Now he only had 6,876 spirit stones left. He felt that spirit stones weren't easy to come by and was reluctant to spend more. He also realized that he had run out of the silver moon petals. He bought 2 packs, which cost him 2,000 spirit stones. With that he returned to his house. He had less than 5,000 spirit stones left, and he needed to earn more as soon as possible. The days of having over 10,000 spirit stones seemed so far away. He couldn't believe he had actually had that many spirit stones before. I thought senior sister Ming-Yi would come to visit, but it seems I won't see her for a while. The only thing that remained was a visit from senior sister Ming-Yi. But she didn't come. He could only put it aside for now. Now, I only have to wait for Hong Yuya. Before she arrived, he wanted to improve his cultivation realm. The outside world would likely be in turmoil. The disciples from Clear Sky School were coming, as were those from the Mountain Sea Sword sect. The Grand Earth Emperor was about to appear. It was sure to cause a storm. The Heavenly Note sect was remote enough not to be affected. That was exactly what Jianghu wanted. At this moment, the stone tablet suddenly vibrated. A gathering? He looked at it. It wasn't a call for gathering. Instead, it was information about Yan Shang from the Sunset Immortal sect. I should just accept it. I can look at the details slowly. Jianghu didn't expect the message to reveal her true identity, but having this information was useful. However, the content of the message surprised him. The first sentence was, "One of the avatars of Feng Hua." It seems that this information is more detailed than the previous one. Jianghu couldn't help but be amazed. When investigating Feng Hua earlier, they hadn't found this particular avatar. Looking at the information, Jianghu was quite surprised. The information revealed that Yan Shang was perfect. As one of the top disciples of Sunset Immortal sect, she was exceptionally talented. She was already in the middle stage of the return to Void Realm at just 200 years old. She was considered a remarkable genius. Furthermore, she was friendly and kept a low profile. The elders and seniors adored and admired her. There was nothing negative about her in the information. She had never harmed anyone and she never had conflicts with others. Her favorite things were provided generously by the sect. However, she obtained everything through her own abilities and was admired by everyone. Even though Jianghu hadn't met her in person, there were legends about her throughout the sect. Some even boldly claimed that Yan Shang might compete for the position of the next sect master. The information was limited, but it mentioned Feng Hua's concern for this particular avatar. It wasn't as detailed as the information on Shengguan Qingsu. They probably were from different sources. There were mentions of protective spells around her, both within and outside the sect. There were also some life-saving treasures at her disposal. These details are sufficient. However, her cultivation realm is higher than I expected. It's troublesome. If it were convenient, he'd prefer to visit her himself, but it wasn't possible for him right now. A regular middle-stage return to Void Realm cultivator might be able to hide, but this was Fenghua he was talking about. She wasn't an ordinary return to Void Realm cultivator. It was uncertain whether he could get close to her. I can only ask Gui for help in delivering a message. He had an idea. It might not be possible for him to visit the sect and pass on a message, but there were others in the southern region who could do it. The problem now was to come up with a way to ask for Gui's help. Gui was still after Inzichin. If he could find him for her, perhaps he could trade with her. But getting in touch with the Mountain Sea Sword sect isn't that easy. He could only wait for a proper opportunity. Perhaps there was a way to contact them. In the following days, Jianghu returned to his usual calm, but it seemed that the grand competition within the sect had reopened. Many people were vying for opportunities. News also quickly spread that the Black Heaven sect was about to come across something big, and the sect wanted a piece of the pie. This surprised Jianghu, but he didn't pay it much mind. He didn't need any opportunities. One day, Jianghu received a communication talisman to meet his master. There was something his master wanted to ask him. Shortly after, Jianghu reached Ku Wu Chang's courtyard. This time there is a fixed list of people for the visit to the Black Heaven sect, and your name is on it. However, it's difficult to take you out of the sect because of your status in the law enforcement hall. Ku Wu Chang looked at Jianghu. If you want to go, I can help you figure something out. I'll be accompanying you on the journey anyway. Jianghu lowered his head and didn't know how to answer for a moment. He didn't want to go. It was too dangerous. There were people who wanted to kill him, and more importantly, the appearance of the Grand Earth Emperor would undoubtedly bring trouble. A slight slip could lead to a disaster. You don't want to go? Ku Wu Chang asked. Jianghu nodded. I'm sorry to disappoint you, master. It's all right. Ku Wu Chang shook his head and didn't say anything. Jianghu left. He looked back at his master's house and sighed. His master was very kind to him, but going outside was dangerous for him. No one within the sect harmed him, and he could peacefully manage the spirit herb garden. That was enough for him. In 10 or 100 years, all troubles would disappear. People and their hatred toward him would fade away. Even if 100 years wasn't enough, 200 years would do it. The people who hated him would eventually let go of their grudge. Chapter 670. The Heavenly Note sect should explain themselves. Back at the Spirit Herb Garden, Jianghu continued to tend to spirit herbs peacefully. He didn't need to worry about much nowadays. He just needed to handle changes that occurred in the garden and nothing more. This included occasional friction and collaboration between the spirit herb gardens from other branches and outstanding payments by disciples. Although it wasn't as bad as before, there were still some issues. For now, Qingqiu was handling them, and they weren't serious enough for Jianghu to get involved. One inner sect disciple was enough to take charge of the spirit herb garden. Thankfully, Qingqiu didn't contend with him. Time passed, and half a month later, in mid-June, Jianghu heard news that the sect master had gone on an expedition and returned, but her condition didn't seem to be great. They also brought back some people, but Jianghu didn't know who they were. This news caught Jianghu's attention, but since Lu Xingchen wasn't around, he couldn't find out more. He decided to visit the Lawless Tower for more information. It's been a while since I visited Zhuang Yuzhen and the others. The sect kept Zhuang Yuzhen because of the heavenly fragrance Dao flower. He might still be able to contact Senior Dan Yuan. However, because he refused to divulge who had sent him, he remained stuck on the 5th floor. Heavenly King Hai Luo chose to stay on the 5th floor. As for Nangong Yu, her intentions were uncertain. In the afternoon, Jianghu arrived at the Lawless Tower. Unfortunately, he didn't encounter any familiar seniors who could tell him about the people brought back. Once he reached the 5th floor, he heard Nangong Yu's voice. Heavenly King, when will your master come? It's been months. Isn't he going to question you anymore? She asked. Ridiculous. Since when did this king need a master? Disciple Zhuang, when will Heavenly King Hai Luo's master come and visit? Nangong Yu asked. He'll come when he remembers us, Zhuang Yuzhen said. Zhuang Yuzhen had some experience with this matter. When Jianghu entered the room, he thought that these three seniors seemed to be getting along well. They had been talking, but as soon as Jianghu entered, they all fell silent. Nangong Yu appeared nervous. She wasn't sure why she felt frightened by this person. It must be the influence of the other two. In the past, no matter who came, Heavenly King Hai Luo always responded with a stinky attitude as though he was invincible. But when this person appeared in front of him, his whole demeanor changed. "It's been too long," said Jianghu and bowed politely. These people were seniors after all. It was best to be polite to them. "Indeed," Zhuang Yuzhen said. "I have a question I want to ask you," Nan Gongyu immediately said. "In return, I'll tell you a secret." Jianghu looked at her. He wasn't interested in this secret. It could bring trouble. His current lifestyle suited him just fine. 100 more years with such peace would be perfect. Once he got involved in secrets, trouble would come knocking one after the other. "Why aren't you saying anything? If you want to know something you can ask or request something," Nan Gongyu said. She was slightly irritated when she saw Jianghu's indifferent face. "Senior, if you have any questions you can ask senior sister Insha. She knows everything," Jianghu replied helplessly. He knew what Nan Gongyu wanted to know, and senior sister Insha was the right person to provide that information. "No. She can't speak about it. She can't reveal anything to anyone," Nan Gongyu said. Jianghu was surprised. That must be the reason why she had been hounding him with the question relentlessly. But if senior sister Insha couldn't say anything, then revealing the secret about what the Saint Bandits did would be counterproductive. Others might not know as much about the Saint Bandits and their goal, but this person definitely did. It was better not to mention anything about Heaven Lock. "I don't understand. A secret is no longer a secret if you don't say it out loud. Who knows if it's true or not? Just say it outright," Heavenly King Hai Luo said dismissively. "Is it still a secret if you say it out loud?" Nan Gongyu asked in disdain. "You are ignorant," Heavenly King Hai Luo said. Nan Gongyu was speechless. Jianghu didn't pay much attention to their bickering. Instead, he approached Zhuang Yuzhen and asked if anything had happened at the Lawless Tower lately. Zhuang Yuzhen was always calm and calculative. He must have kept an eye on things. "I heard that someone from the Heavenly Tower was captured, and they're likely on one of the upper floors right now," Zhuang Yuzhen said as he pointed toward the ceiling. Jianghu was surprised. It was someone from the Heavenly Tower. But he didn't ask further. He asked about the Heavenly Fragrance Dao Flower and how Zhuang Yuzhen had learned about it. "From an anonymous person," Zhuang Yuzhen said. His repose was the same as before. Jianghu didn't ask further. He knew that the information had no impact on him, but Hong Yuye would take action. He didn't mention anything about Chu Zhong. After so many years in the tower, Zhuang Yuzhen seemed to have settled down and no longer cared about it. As for his cultivation realm, he remained at the early stage of the primordial spirit realm. Heavenly King Hai Luo was still in the late stage of the same realm. Nan Gongyu had fallen to the early stage of the primordial spirit realm as well. It seemed that Heavenly King Hai Luo had the best control over his cultivation out of the three. "We're currently facing a problem," Zhuang Yuzhen suddenly said. "What happened?" Jianghu asked. He hadn't heard any news about these people lately. Senior sister Insha and the others couldn't inform him about it, and Lu Xingchen was nowhere to be seen. "We are at an impasse. This situation doesn't benefit anyone. So, your people have made a suggestion," Zhuang Yuzhen said earnestly. "They've proposed a method for restoring our cultivation. It involves going out every month to teach disciples or help the disciple who seeks guidance. The number of problems we solve will correspond to how much we can improve our cultivation as a reward." "How is that calculated?" Jianghu asked. "The people of the Lawless Tower have the final say," Heavenly King Hai Luo said with a sneer. Jianghu didn't find it surprising. The Heavenly Note sect was always like this. Zhuang Yuzhen and the others would make contributions, and the sect would decide how much to reward them based on their mood. "Have you agreed to this?" Jianghu asked. "Not yet, but we'll probably agree in the future," Zhuang Yuzhen said. "You'll agree? The Heavenly Note sect truly doesn't regard us as human beings. They keep exploiting us. When we become worthless, we'll be disposed of," Nan Gongyu said coldly. Jianghu nodded in agreement. She was right. The Heaven Note sect constantly exploited the captives in the Lawless Tower. When they've lost their cultivation realms, they were sent to the mines to work. After they advanced, they were once again sent to the Lawless Tower. It was a vicious cycle. Zhuang Yuzhen paid no attention to Nan Gongyu. He believed that she would understand in the future. "If you reveal everything you know, the Heavenly Note sect might consider contacting the Divine Corpse sect for you," Jianghu said. "And then?" Zhuang Yuzhen shook his head and chuckled. What would I, as a primordial spirit realm cultivator, do when I return? Jianghu frowned. With his corpse heart, it wouldn't be difficult for him to restore his cultivation realm, unless he knew that his corpse heart was already lost. With a sigh, Jianghu decided not to ask any more questions and got up to leave. Wait. Nangongyu hurriedly said. Are you practicing the Blood Wish Path? I know a secret about the Blood Wish Path. Jianghu still didn't stop. Nangongyu was anxious. Blood pool. The Heavenly Note sect has a blood pool. Chapter 671. Maybe Feng Hua 1IT find it bitter. Nangongyu thought that after mentioning the blood pool, Jianghu would at least pause and ask her about it. However, he didn't stop at all. He simply left. He turned a deaf ear to her words. This surprised and frustrated her and left her at a loss for words. Jianghu had already disappeared from her sight. Moreover, within this tower that suppressed almost everything, sounds couldn't travel too far. Why didn't he stop and ask me about it? Nangongyu asked. Why would he stop? Asked Hai Luo. Isn't he curious? Nangongyu asked. I told you. A secret is only useful when revealed. If you don't hint at it, he won't be interested. You should have spoken up earlier. Now you'll have to wait for a few months till he visits again. The Heavenly King laughed. If your luck is bad, you might have to wait for years. Nangongyu was speechless. How could this be? Saying a secret out loud would make oneself worthless. According to the Heavenly King, if she didn't speak up soon, she might not even have the chance to speak again. After leaving the lawless tower, Jianghu sighed. Blood pool? He had no idea what that was. It did remind him of someone, though. It reminded him of the blood demon in Lu Xingchen's body. However, the blood pool was probably related to the Blood Wish Path and nothing else. After all, Nangongyu had just mentioned it a moment before. Knowing more just complicates everything. For now he couldn't do much. Whether it was Qianqin or the blood pool, he couldn't easily confront them. Who could he even turn to for advice? Louis Xinchen had changed due to possession. With his current state and the sudden appearance of the blood pool, Jianghu felt he was going to face some trouble in the future. When he returned to his courtyard, he saw the spirit beast hanging from the peach tree. It was bruised and swollen. Shaoli was asleep at the table. He also noticed a young woman in a red and white gown sitting across from her. She was sipping tea and gazing at Shaoli. Jianghu didn't know what was going through her mind. He sighed. He hadn't expected Shaoli to meet Hong Yuya. He couldn't help but worry that she might have said something inappropriate again. He was anxious but didn't know if he should say anything. Did you give the pearl to Shaoli? Hong Yuya asked as she turned to look at him. It seemed to suit Shaoli quite well, so I gave it to her, temporarily, Jianghu said. The truth was that the pearl belonged to Shaoli. Hong Yuya chuckled. Have you contacted Feng Hua? Not yet. My cultivation realm is still low and I need your help, Jianghu said honestly. What's your current cultivation realm? Middle stage of the Golden Core realm, Jianghu said. I see you're going to advance soon, Hong Yuya said. I was just lucky, Jianghu said. Haha, Hong Yuya glanced at the man in front of her. Let's get started then. Jianghu didn't hesitate and set up the formation. He then brought a chair and assumed the appearance of a scholarly young man. Hong Yuya laughed. It seems you do care about your appearance. It's just to put up a convincing performance as smiling San Sheng, said Jianghu sheepishly. Do you have a strong desire for revenge? Hong Yuya asked. Jianghu hesitated for a moment and then shook his head. My strength and power are too low, so I don't really care for revenge. Hong Yuya gazed at the man in front of her but remained silent. Jianghu had everything ready and activated the formation. Soon a black figure appeared. It was shrouded in a black robe and was relatively short in stature. As soon as the figure appeared, Jianghu smiled. Feng Hua, it's been too long. What do you mean? Feng Hua asked. Her voice sounded like a man's. Nothing. Jianghu chuckled. Did you go overseas? Feng Hua asked. Yes, Jianghu said. Have you found out anything? Feng Hua asked. Naturally. Do you know the most important thing that I discovered? Jianghu smiled. Without a doubt, you found what you wanted, Feng Hua said with a smile. That's right. I must thank you for this. If you hadn't provided me with this information, I wouldn't have gained much on this journey. Jianghu opened his fan and gently fanned himself. It's nothing. I'm happy to assist a fellow disciple, Feng Hua said politely. By the way, I've acquired something remarkable on this trip that I'd like to share with you, Jianghu said as he took out a fruit. It was the fruit from the tranquil fruit tree. It's said to be an extremely expensive fruit, and I had to go to great lengths to obtain it. In the end, I managed to bring the whole tree back, said Jianghu as he took a bite. However, before Feng Hua could respond, Jianghu put the fruit in his mouth. By the way, did I mention it to you last time? I thought I had eaten them all, but when I checked there were actually 3 left. Unfortunately, my friend didn't eat them, so I had to eat them myself. It might not be too bitter for you, Ms. Feng Hua. Feng Hua smiled. My friend, you got it wrong. Oh, right, thanks for the reminder, Jianghu said. After finishing one, he asked Feng Hua, do you want one? Oh wait, you can't have one. Jianghu continued to eat the second one. This is the last one. I'm going to eat it. Jianghu looked at the other person in front of him and lifted the fruit to his mouth. However, he took it out again. Maybe I should just keep it, Jianghu said. But before the other person could respond, he hurriedly put it in his mouth. Ugh, he spit it out in disgust. These taste terrible. Thankfully it's all gone now. Feng Hua watched him. Do you have any more questions, disciple? If not, I wish us another pleasant cooperation as we did last time. I don't have any. Jianghu smiled. Our cooperation has been pleasant. By the way, I have one more thing to say to you. What is it? Feng Hua curiously asked. This counts as the second gift. Look forward to the third one. It will definitely be your favorite, Jianghu said with a smile as he closed his fan. Then he deactivated the formation. At the Sunset Immortal Sect, on a mountain peak surrounded by spiritual energy, a woman in a rainbow-colored dress sat at the edge of the mountain. She gazed at the rugged mountains ahead with a thoughtful expression. She seemed lost in thought. Senior Sister Yen. A young woman landed next to her and greeted her respectfully. The woman snapped out of her reverie and looked at her junior with a smile. Why did you come here, Junior Sister Louis? I received a message that said you might be heading to the Black Heaven sect soon, and I thought of accompanying you. They say there might be a significant opportunity at the Black Heaven sect, and the elders don't want you to miss it, Junior Sister Louis said. The Black Heaven sect? That's fine. Many people are going there, right? Yanshang asked. Yes. Almost all the major sects are sending their representatives. Even the demonic sects are participating. Demonic sects. The Heavenly Note sect. We have quite a bit of history with them. There might be some discussions. In that case, let's go and see, Yanshang said. Chapter 672. Don't you want this era to belong to you? Near the Black Heaven sect, Princess Baizhu, accompanied by Qiao Yi, continued their journey toward the Black Heaven sect. Princess, how can you be sure that person is in the Black Heaven sect? Qiao Yi asked. I'm not certain, but exploring it might be a good idea. I heard there are opportunities there and you might benefit from it as well. As for the people from the Mountain Sea Sword sect, there's no need for us to search for them. They'll come to the Black Heaven sect themselves, Baizhu said with a smile. Qiao Yi didn't question her words. So far, the princess hadn't shown her true power, but the information she received was always accurate. However, she still wanted to see for herself what it was like when the princess was in action. Before they could discuss further, Qiao Yi brought up another matter. Prince Baiyu was asking when you would be returning to the palace. Why is my second brother suddenly looking for me? Baizhu was puzzled. He probably thinks Imperial City is safer now, especially after the purges that took place recently, Qiao Yi said. During those events, there were traitors and many people were implicated. Numerous individuals were thrown into jail, and most of them had their cultivation stripped off and were exiled. With the sudden reduction in the number of people, various regions became chaotic. Some were even trying to create conflict. The princess staying out of the city was somewhat dangerous, especially considering that she was an ordinary person. Baizhu was a typical example of such a person. She was older and couldn't even find a husband. It's because of the recent Great Purge that I don't want to go back. The stench of blood is too heavy there. Baizhu shook her head. You can tell him that we're on a sightseeing trip and will return in some time. Don't let him worry too much. Qiao Yi could only nod her head. She couldn't do much when it came to the princess. Fortunately, this time she was accompanying the princess. In the past, she wandered around on her own. Suddenly Baizhu stopped and looked to the side. Qiao Yi was about to speak, but they saw several flying swords appear. Each sword emitted a chilling aura that sent shivers down one's spine. Mountain Sea Sword Sect. Baizhu was surprised. She hadn't seen members of this sect so far. The north and south were very far apart, and with her cultivation realm, she couldn't travel far. All these people are extraordinary. Qiao Yi could sense their power. Let's follow them and find out what's going on with Yin Zichen, Baizhu said with interest. Finally, she could find out more about the situation. Are you going to ask them? Qiao Yi was a little puzzled. Of course not. Let's see where they're headed. We'll follow them and then make contact with one or two of them to ask about it. It's easier for them to answer with fewer people around, Baizhu said with a smile. Qiao Yi nodded. After talking with Feng Hua, Jianghu tidied up his surroundings. He collected the chair and the formation, and he transformed back into his normal appearance. He stored the fan in his storage treasure. Sister-in-law. As Jianghu was about to explain everything to Hong Yuye, Shaoli suddenly woke up. She was groggy. This surprised Jianghu and he was taken aback. Shaoli had a brother and sister-in-law at her parents' place, said Jianghu hurriedly. Hong Yuye raised an eyebrow. Her gaze shifted from Shaoli to Jianghu. What is her brother called? Does her sister-in-law treat her well? Well, I don't know much about that, Jianghu said in a hushed tone. Shaoli's family matters are private and don't get involved too much. Hong Yuye was calm. Jianghu didn't know what she might be thinking. The Grand Earth Emperor is about to appear, she suddenly said. In the Black Heaven sect? Jianghu asked. He had only speculated before, but now that Hong Yuye had spoken, it meant that the Grand Earth Emperor was undoubtedly going to make an appearance. Aren't you going to check it out? Hong Yuye asked. It's too dangerous. Jianghu shook his head. Where on earth is safe for you? Hong Yuye asked while rising from her seat and heading to the corner. She pulled out the cracked half-moon blade he had impaled there in the corner. The question had been on Jianghu's mind for a long time. Where on earth was safe for him? It seemed that there was no safe place for him. The 4 regions and the overseas regions each had their own challenges. He had been to the east, traveled overseas, and finally felt that the Heavenly Note sect was where he most wanted to stay. Although there were dangers here, he had the strength to defend himself. He thought about it for a long time. The Heavenly Note sect is much safer. Are you planning to hide here your whole life? Hong Yuye put away the sword. Jianghu lowered his head. I still have a very low cultivation realm. I haven't thought that far ahead. He had been on the path to become stronger, avoid danger and solve crises. He hadn't thought much about the future because the present was what mattered most. After a long silence, Hong Yuye asked Jianghu to carry Shaoli away on his back. Jianghu carried Shaoli and walked to her house. Hong Yuye walked alongside him. Senior, what will happen when the Grand Earth Emperor appears? How would that compare to the Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment? Jianghu asked on the way. There's no comparison. The current Grand Earth Emperor will be different from the previous ones. Hong Yuye shook her head. Jianghu understood that the commotion caused by the Grand Earth Emperor might not be as loud as the Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment, but the event would be less susceptible to attacks. But the Grand Earth Emperor is associated with something, Hong Yuye said. The Human Emperor's sword? Jianghu asked. The Shenyuan sword was the weapon of the previous Human Emperor. The 9 Nether of the fallen Immortal clan and the Saint Bandits of the Heavenly Spirit tribe had both lost to the Human Emperor. You don't use a sword? Hong Yuye asked. Only occasionally, Jianghu said. He had the primordial heavenly blade, so he didn't really need to be interested in any other sword. Besides, he couldn't control high-level swords. Hong Yuye walked alongside him. They continued down the path by the river. Hold on to the Shenyuan sword, and you might leave a mark on this era. Hong Yuye turned to the person beside her. Jianghu shook his head. He walked lightly so as not to wake Shaoli on his back. I don't need to leave a mark on this era. The Human Emperor represents that era. It's his time, Hong Yuye said seriously. Don't you want this time to remember you? I have no such ambitions, Jianghu said without hesitation. Hong Yuye smiled. When I was your age, my ambitions almost reached the heavens. You had extraordinary talent, while I'm just an ordinary inner disciple of the sect. I can't compare to you, Jianghu said respectfully. Is that so? Hong Yuye said plainly. The two fell silent and continued on their journey. They moved away from the river. Xiao Li's house was still some distance away from their current location. "Aren't you worried about being seen?" Jianghu asked. Hong Yuya looked at him but didn't say anything. She appeared skeptical of the question. "How old is Xiao Li?" Hong Yuya suddenly asked. 23, Jianghu said. "If you go by her parents' words and consider her age in human years, she's around 23. In all these years she hasn't grown at all," Hong Yuya said as she gazed at Xiao Li on Jianghu's back. "That's true. Her weight, height and mental state haven't changed." Jianghu nodded. He occasionally checked on her and had also asked the spirit beast about it. Over a decade spent with Xiao Li seemed like the blink of an eye. Xiao Li was truly a member of the Dragon Clan. At the Lawless Tower, Insha looked at the two prisoners in front of her in confusion. One appeared to be elderly and was clearly a formidable figure from the Heavenly Tower. The other, in his 30s, was not found in their records. "Who is this person?" Insha asked. "I don't know," said a fellow sect member beside her. "According to the information, it seems his surname is In, but for more details, we'd need you to investigate, Senior Sister Insha." Insha inspected them for a moment. She then frowned. "He's not human. Like Nangong Yu, he belongs to the Heavenly Spirit tribe." You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.